You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. All right, folks, welcome to another Dangerous Liberty Podcast. We got a great show for you. We got a lot to talk about tonight. I want to say hi to everybody over in the comments. We'll give a quick little safety brief here in a minute, how this is all going to go down. We got a great guest for you. As a matter of fact, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and bring on the great Matt Tardio. Matt, hey, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate you coming on tonight.
No, man, I appreciate you inviting me. I really do. Yeah, well, I appreciate you, not getting me demonetized while we dual stream this. I was like, ooh, that's a lot of faith to put in a guy. So,
well, I will tell you right now, we have been inexplicably yanked off the live stream the last couple of nights. I have some suspicions. I think there's some Candace bots making complaints against us. I don't know. Hopefully that won't happen.
It's Mossad. Or the French.
French Foreign Legion Mossad. The French Mossad. Yeah. So anyways, hopefully that won't happen tonight. It's been a wild ride with all this stuff. I thought liberals were bad. Man, if you're just asking questions about Candace, that is a big no-no. If you expect some evidence out of her, or I don't know, maybe just not accuse people of murder without evidence, it's always a good place to start as a good American. But yeah, I want to say hi to everybody over there in the comments. Thank you for showing up. We really appreciate you. Make sure you like, subscribe. Down in the description below, if you're not following Matt, please go follow him. I got all of his social media links. Go give him a follow. If you're not following me on some of our other social medias, make sure you go follow that. I've been a lot more active on Twitter, much to my dismay. I'm not a big fan of Twitter. I still don't like Twitter, but I'm going to do a lot more there. I think that is going to be, right now, them and Rumble are kind of the best when it comes to freedom of speech. But I will say I don't like the environment over on X. It's just a little crazy over there.
It can be chaotic. It really can. You've got to really filter the crap, man. You really do. But it's also a great place. I've got a lot of great leads off of it. Got a lot of very good information. Met a lot of great people over there. I almost feel like X is starting to turn kind of in the direction almost what LinkedIn should have been. I've got news interviews off there. I've met a ton of great people. So I do like X for that, like the networking aspect.
No, I agree. A lot of the people that I've wanted to have an interview with, I've been able to reach out to them directly on X. When you're looking for videos and photos and things like that you're not going to find anywhere else, you can find that on X. So yeah, no, there's definitely some great aspects of it. And again, I'm just kind of dipping my toe in, and we'll figure it out. And again, we'll start pumping a lot more content over there. And what I do like is, you got to engage with the trolls, but what I do like is that regular engagement that you have with a lot of different people. And you kind of, like you said, you kind of build up this network of people that you know, that you trust. There are a lot of great reporters and citizen journalists out there. They're not, complete grifters. And so a lot of great elements of that. Real quick, folks, I wanted to give you an update. Unfortunately, earlier today, right here in DC area, in DC, we had 2 National Guard soldiers that were actually shot. I want to share the screen with you. This is the most up-to-date information that I could find so far. And I hate how StreamYard does this, but I'm going to add this to the stage here and give you this up to date. So basically what we have here is he's an Afghan national. The gunman who allegedly shot 2 West Virginia National Guard personnel has been identified as Afghan national. Law enforcement officials told CBS News that the suspect was that name right there, a 29-year-old Afghan national who first entered the United States in 2021. The National Guard were shot roughly a mile from the White House and are in critical condition after initial reports indicated they had been slain. So they are not. Our governor, Governor Morrissey, actually put out that both had died. Apparently, that is not true. I'm praying for them. I hope everything turns out good for them. The suspect, and this is what I couldn't find anywhere else. As a matter of fact, over on here we are several hours later. Over on Fox News, they said they couldn't figure out a motive. The suspect shouted Allahu Akbar before opening fire with a revolver, according to the journalist Julio Rojas. One National Guardman on the scene stabbed the gunman with a pocket knife before another one fired multiple shots. Somewhere in here it says he stabbed him with a pocket knife because he didn't have a firearm. And or
wow.
I'm actually
what I got told is they didn't have rounds chambered.
Yeah.
What I got told is they didn't have rounds chambered.
I'd be willing to bet that probably only NCOs and above even had rounds on them. That
wouldn't
my
surprise me, man.
That is my suspicion. So that's what's going on with that right now. You know, there's I don't know. The United States is going a little nuts out there. And look, I do think one of the things that we talked about, I actually reached out to Matt a couple of days ago, wanting to discuss the rhetoric that I think is contributing a lot to the violence that we see here in the United States against the right. We have the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We have the attempted assassination of President Trump. I don't think those are accidents. I think those are, intentional in that. There are political actors out there that have been trying to create this type of environment. When you keep calling people Hitler, when you keep calling them Nazis, when you make your political enemies an existential threat, not only are you encouraging people to do violent things, but they're actually a hero if they did. And the other thing that we're going to get into a little bit tonight is the idea that, look, I've said this many times. I believe when we look at Thomas Crooks, I don't think that happened by accident either. When we're looking at Tyler Robinson, I don't know about Tyler Robinson. All right. But my suspicion is the same with Crooks. And I'm very confident that he was radicalized, that he was identified, he was radicalized, he was weaponized, and he was pointed at a target. And I think turning some of these confused young men, most of them probably with some sort of psychological issues, I don't think it's that hard. I think that's a lot easier than putting, 3 shooters, having a patsy and then a pro shooter somewhere and trying to conceal all this in this big grand conspiracy. I think you can do a lot of this stuff from the shadows, and I think that's something that needs to be looked at much harder. And
that's exactly what started happening today. I think one of the first people I was talking to you about was BX on X, right, Becca?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So very, very eye-opening conversation when you end up having that. And what I think you're actually seeing is old school tradecraft starting to come back, but just modernized a little bit, right? Like that tradecraft is now being turned into online platform. And so what you're seeing is people being recruited online. The handlers no longer have to be in theater in order to find them. And they're doing this by blasting out mass information, right? How many accounts did we see over on X that ended up being in different countries that purported themselves to be American? Right. They're putting out radical ideology. They're putting out radical agendas. They're putting out radical conspiracy theories that are very provocative in nature. They dig through their comment section. They find those people. They recruit them. They take them over to a Telegram channel. They push them on Telegram, and they end up pulling them into the loop that way. And then they can task them out. And they're all these uncompartmentalized cells, compartmentalized cells that don't really know what they're doing. So I think that's kind of more or less what we end up seeing. I think there's evidence of that also that speaks in the Trump assassination attempt.
Yeah, and I don't even know that it needs to be. I think some of the stuff can be done completely algorithmically. Identifying certain psychological profiles that we see online. I think they have. Look, I think they have multiple psychological profiles that they can identify online, and then they have a formula and a system like how do we engage this person with this type of profile to get to do X, Y, and Z. And the great thing is they can be doing this 1,000 people at a time. And they only need 1 or 2 to actually be a success for them, right? So, this is something people need to be aware of, and this goes into some of the psychological warfare that we're seeing when we're talking about information ops, when we're talking about disinformation, and I think that is another key element that should be visible to the aware among us. What's going on with Charlie Kirk from the very beginning? With Charlie Kirk, so much disinformation was flooded, undermine the government's narrative. and to just flood it with nonsense to where people started off so biased and so confused that they don't even know where to begin. And that's where you leave someone like Candace and some of these other people that are coming in there and just pouring it. Like every single episode of hers, she introduces a new character or a new element. And then, what she started off with, which watching her first few episodes, where the direction that she was going was that she was basically saying that Lance Twiggs was the shooter. And then she's kind of veered off. Then it went to TPUSA, and then we introduced Israel into this. And then, like, I don't even know where we're at with Egyptian planes, the French Foreign Legion.
Right.
Like, I think people find this fascinating. I think they find it entertaining. And it's like this, choose your own adventure murder mystery made for Lifetime TV that they get to participate in. And then they'll defend her no matter what, even if you just ask questions of like, hey, where's the evidence of this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is heard pretty quick coming out of that event. And let's take away all the Egyptian stuff and everything else that we ended up seeing down there.
Right.
There was a poster over on X, and this is out of all the people, and I don't think Candace has dug into this yet, why somebody was able to post on X the day prior that something was about to go down over the TPUSA event, right? And clearly had advanced knowledge that there was going to be something happening. We had a guy that originally got arrested with a pellet gun, right? That got detained by law enforcement after Charlie got shot, that ended up having a pellet gun. And then there was another guy that was running around screaming basically like, I'm the shooter. And so you have all of these different distractions that were kind of out in place, plus clear advanced knowledge that was going down beforehand. So imagine how different the world would be if we actually had people that were putting that information out and blasting and digging down those rabbit holes versus, Egyptian planes and the French Foreign Legion.
And flying drones with lasers. Let me stop you. From what I remember, Matt, on that pellet gun incident, I believe, and that was like the day of or the next day where those pictures came out. I think it came out that pellet gun and that whole incident was like another place completely. I could be wrong on that. I don't know. I'd have to double check that, but I kind of think that was one of those things that was like another piece of disinformation that was similar. I don't remember exactly.
So it originally came out with the guy with the pellet gun that was over towards a parking lot, and I believe it was after that happened. That was when Cash came out and was like, yeah, we got the guy. And they didn't.
And that was where they have a picture of his vehicle and they're opening up his trunk. Is that? No.
It was a guy that they were literally escorting and the guy had the rifle with him. It was a weird, I'd have to go back and find it.
The cop came around the front of the vehicle carrying the gun, right?
I never saw a video of that. Like a video of the incident. I saw a still image of it and was like, yep, that's a pellet gun, moving on with life. But the fat guy walking around screaming that he did it, that's a whole other story, right? And even without the pellet gun, let's take the pellet gun and say, okay, the pellet gun was misinformation or disinformation that ended up coming out about that incident. We still have the individual that ended up deleting his Twitter posts about it that had advanced knowledge, and we still have somebody else that was clearly a diversion that was taking place.
Yeah. No,
seems like a coordinated event.
Yeah, I mean the amount of information that just got flooded and started going crazy with this. A great example of this, and if later on, guys, you want to talk. And by the way, I just want to kind of throw out some of the normal things for these types of. Number one, Matt and I are going to talk like a normal podcast toward the end. We will definitely make sure that we get to your guys' questions. We will prioritize super chats, but we will also try to take some of the live questions as well. Disagreements welcome, but name calling. I think Matt has some of his guys in his chat. Disagreements welcome, but name calling, you're booted. Just as simple as that. We got a few moderators. If you can't be an adult, this one isn't for you. Yeah, besides super chats, if you'd like to support the channel, we just started offering memberships. If you'd like to become a member, we appreciate that support. Whatever works for you. And of course, we have Patreon and all those other things. But yeah, one of the things I just recently released yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. I released the interview that I did with Brian Harpole, the head of security for the security company. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, or kind of what I knew was, that interview is going to be a Rorschach test for like it's not changing anybody's mind, right? If
No.
you go into that and you think he's already guilty, which again, the reason that people think that the security guys are guilty, even though that Candace has moved on from that, by the way, the reason that is because, and everybody else has pretty much moved on from that. The reason is because, the Kool-Aid was tainted from the very beginning. You had all the suspicion put on there. There was so much bad information. They're killing him behind that table. They're not doing any sort of emergency medical care. There's hand signals going on. I just saw a really good video. I don't know if I shared it or not. If I didn't, I wish I did. But a lady went through and looked at all the old TPUSA footage with Dan Flood, who is back behind Charlie. He's Charlie's security guard. And by the way, he's the security manager that is in charge of the contracted security team.
Okay.
But they show him like all these different,
yes,
moving, doing the exact same hand gestures and just, nervous movements of adjusting his sleeves, like just this whole montage of that. And but people were convinced, like, hey, this was some sort of hand signal.
This was his signal to make it happen, and then the mic exploded, and all of that, all of it is absolutely ridiculous. People that are saying there's no way a 30-06 round could stop inside of his neck, I think they're retarded. If they don't think that there is a way that could actually happen. There's actually lots of ways it could happen. Yeah. Highly probable, no.
Well,
but can it happen? Yes.
It's an anomaly. For sure. It's not normal. But here's the problem with all that is like we know nothing about the ammunition. We don't know if it was box ammunition, factory ammunition. We don't know if it was hand loads. We don't know.
We don't know when it was made.
Yeah, we don't know how old it is.
If it was made during COVID, there's a high probability that crap ain't going to work. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's true. There's a huge shortage on ammunition. You had lots of ammo manufacturers open up across the country, lots of ammo plants that were completely and totally out of tune. And we ended up getting a lot of faulty ammunition back then. Back then I was buying tens of thousands of rounds a month. And I can personally tell you, I've had entire lots that were just completely and totally screwed up. And when you're talking about an old rifle like that, when you're talking about them claiming that the cartridge was etched, right? You're talking about weakening the cartridge, which can cause a gas leak, which could cause a failure within the chamber, like all sorts of issues that can go into that. And so, yeah, it is possible. And as a matter of fact, if he was aiming in his head from, that distance away, and assuming that he actually had like a proper zero for that range, like actually had the proper dope dialing into his weapon, and it ended up having a low powder load inside of it, yes, it's highly probable. For the amount of people that were out there that were screaming that, it could have been, it was so quiet, it sounded like a pistol from up close. Do you remember those statements that people were coming out with? Well, you know what else would sound like a pistol at that? I mean, when you're standing in front of the muzzle like that, a low powder load, right? Like, so there's lots of situations that could have actually made that happen. And people that are just automatically throwing it out there, no possible way. It's absolutely impossible. They need to do some more reading, and they need to stop looking at Jason Bourne novels. They need to stop listening to Candace Owens. That's what they need to do.
Well, unfortunately, we've had a lot of people even in our community that have said the same things. And I think that's one of the things that's most unfortunate, because back to your point, we know that he engraved on the casing itself. We don't know what he did to the projectile. We don't know what kind of projectile it was.
We don't know the type stuff.
We don't know anything about it. And for someone to say, he could have grabbed a bunch of his, number one, I got low recoil ammo right here. Low recoil, folks. Like, they make so many different, even box ammunition, different options that are outside of like the two or like what hunters use is like 150 to 175 to up to 180 grains. Mm-hmm. And it's a very narrow scope of what's actually available for people that are going out there and doing recreational shooting. They're typically not using that. They're going to get some of these other things. So there's, and this is one of the things you were talking about, Chris Martinson, that I told him, and we had a discussion about it, that I took issue with. And I was like, Chris, you only use like 150 up to 220 grain ammo. Mm-hmm. Like, there's all these other options. We have ballistic tip, we have varmint rounds, we have low recoil rounds, and this is just what is available with factory ammunition
commercially.
Yeah. He's like, look, I don't think we should even consider those because those aren't like mainstream. I'm like, we have an atypical result, and you don't want to at least
look at atypical ammunition. Right. Like, and that's the same conversation that we had when it goes down to ballistics gel. People are pointing, 30-06 will go through 18 inches of ballistics gel. Yeah. Okay. How many inches of ballistics gel equal how many inches of human flesh? One of the examples I like to use, 124 grain Hydroshock, 9 millimeter, goes through about 12 to 15 inches of ballistics gel on average. And I've seen that go through a man's cheek and stop right behind his eye socket, probably didn't even deform the back of his head.
Yeah.
So that's 12 to 15 inches of ballistics gel. And the answer is, if you're looking at ballistics gel and saying that penetrates 15 inches or 18 inches, that is not equivalent to 18 inches of human flesh that's going to penetrate. That's not what it's designed for. That's not what it is. And as soon as you start throwing in other things like angle of entry, the angle in which it's fired, the muzzle velocity, the different type of projectile that's being used, along with any other intermediary that is passing through, such as a bone, a tendon, large cavities of fluid such as a artery, right? All of that causes different ballistics to take place, terminal ballistics to take place when that round starts to tumble and do all sorts of weird things. So I think people are just not well read.
Yeah, I mean, they're just ignorant. And going back to your point, ballistic gel is extremely consistent when it comes to the material. There's nothing consistent about the human body. And then you throw in bones and like I said, first of all, we got to narrow down. We need probably a good 10 to 12 parameters of just the ammunition to get a good idea, to be able to make any sort of prediction of what it would or would not do. We have none of those. And that doesn't include all the external other possibilities and variabilities that could come into play and that would have an impact on the ballistic outcome of that. So yeah, it's a little bit crazy, and I'm just I don't know. It's nice to hear another sane voice in the wilderness.
Well, here's the thing: if you're a sane individual and you bring up sane points, you don't get credit because you didn't come up with a wild conspiracy theory that people can like I don't know, like little mush brains can bite onto and say, yes, this makes sense. The moment you have to start explaining if there's internal, external, terminal ballistics, and we're talking about the different ammunition and the variances in muzzle velocity, all of this other stuff that could have actually gone into play, not to mention the angle of entry into the actual target itself. Everything that you go into talk about that actually makes up ballistics. People don't want to know that, and it's not a 3-second answer that you can just spit out, right? It's very easy to spit out Mossad. It's very easy to spit out the French. It's very easy to spit out some stupid crap like that versus actually explaining to people what's going on.
Yeah, look, Shanduli, this is your one and only warning. If you can't have a substantive argument, this isn't the place for you. If you want to go jump on Candace Owens and you guys talk in an echo chamber and you don't want to listen to objectively what we're telling you as professionals, that's fine. That's fine. But this is your last warning. This is name calling. It's childish. It's dumb. And I'm done with people like this. Yeah.
And don't take people that have been in this industry professionally for a very long time.
Yeah.
Don't take our word for it. Take Candace Owens.
Jump on that train. And whoever else like that. I don't know what to say. And to your point, number one, that's what we do here. Number one, we kind of specialize in long range. We're a training company, and I went through the exact same thing. I was prior to COVID. There's literally some of the videos that I've done on Hornady, ELD 147 grain, and I was like, there's no reason to even reload anymore. I'm getting quarter gram away, consistent ammunition out of this stuff. I'm not even going to bother reloading. COVID hit. We ordered several more cases. We teach long range. And again, we have lots of ammo that just won't shoot. And it hasn't been the same since, by the way. I haven't got Hornady to shoot as well. And hopefully maybe by now they've worked out some stuff and it's gotten better. But when Hornady ELDM first came out, man, that stuff was unbelievable. But and that's another point. It's like ammunition is inconsistent. It's inconsistent from lot to lot. And, commercial ammunition, especially if it's not even match grade, it's inconsistent from bullet to bullet within the same box.
Yes, sir.
So,
and it's going to be inconsistent depending on the firearm which it's fired out of. You can have 2 factory firearms with the exact same specs and get variance in muzzle velocities out of each one of them for that nothing is the same when it comes down to it. Absolutely nothing. And so for people to sit there and speculate and say that they know everything that's going on, they don't. Just flat out, they don't.
Yep. Yeah, man. A lot going on there. Let's talk a little bit about the. I don't know. What do you want to cover first? You want to cover the?
Oh man, where do you want me to go, dude?
Continued misinformation. I think that's something that like, regardless of all this other stuff, folks, this is what you need to be aware of. And I've said this, and it hasn't been said enough clearly. I say it every episode. Yeah, the government lies to us. We know that. But I'm telling you right now, what we have is we have social media that I think is being heavily influenced by political operatives and or foreign adversaries that understands the vulnerability of the fact that we don't trust our government right now. And they're exploiting it. And the fact is, there are so many people out there, and I understand the tendency, but I think it's illogical. Whatever the government says, they're going to go with the opposite. You're like a pissed off 4-year-old, and I'm not even saying that as a pejorative or demeaning. I'm just saying, like, you can't be locked into that. We need to be able to assess every piece of information independently, and then you need to use logic, evidence, and good old common sense and say, hey, what out of these things makes the most sense? What out of these narratives has the most evidence to back it up? And then from there, you can kind of go with don't start off with a narrative that you like. Like, I love the palm gun idea. I love the freaking camera gun. I love the midget in the, little storm doors down here. I love those things. So I'm going to go with that. And then I'm going to I go with something that's fantastic to begin with. And then I got to put all these other even more fantastical elements to make it work. And then I'm going to stick to that, and I'm going to make it part of my personality. And if you apply any common sense and try to challenge me on that, you're attacking me personally.
So let's ask this question. Why did the Afghan national wait until today to shoot 2 National Guardsmen? And I want everybody at home to think about that. They've been out on the street over in D.C. for weeks. And they've been posted up in the same areas, guarding the same metro stations, picking up trash, doing random policing, stuff like that, over within the city for a very long period of time. And I want you to ask, why did that shooter wait until today to decide to pull that trigger? Because I guarantee you, when he came to this country, he was already radicalized. When he got here, that happened. So why did he decide today of all days to do it? And you look at what's been going on over the last couple of weeks inside of America. You look where we have our National Guard being politicized. You look where we have the division inside of our government. And one of the best parts, and you could look this up in like the U.S. Army, like open source psychological operations. When you have an opening, when you have a narrative that is going to be divisive, you exploit that narrative. You exploit it as hard as you can. And what better way to do that than going up and schwacking 2 National Guard guys over in Washington, D.C., a couple blocks from the White House, as this country is already divided on the National Guard being deployed to other cities that are already divided.
Yeah. Look, I think we have so many vulnerabilities when it comes to that can be exploited by, again, whether we're talking about Islamic terrorists, which I think, unless the news reporting comes out to be completely wildly wrong, that's right. Kind of what we're dealing with. But what I also will say is it does seem, it's been very apparent to me that there's an element of the left and even some sort of weird element of the right, whether you want to call it the woke right or whatever else, that is defensive against pointing out the dangers of radical Islam.
Which is insane to me, because every Afghan I brought back to the United States, every Muslim Afghan I fought beside, that I helped bring back to the United States of America, will sit there and they will scream at you about the dangers of radical Islam. They will tell you. But for some reason, people inside of this country that have never dealt with it, that have no idea it exists, that have been sheltered from it. What's the name of that silly comic? Dave Smith. I saw Dave Smith make a comment, and he was going up against Dan Crenshaw over on X, and he was basically flicking him crap over this stuff. And Dave came out with a comment: listen, you lost 30,000 brothers to suicide over this time frame and all this other crap, and you went over there fighting for companies and oil or whatever his excuse was, right? Like that silly little freaking woke narrative that they end up pushing out. That man. And he goes, and by the way, no other major terror attacks have taken place on U.S. soil, so you're fighting for nothing. And it's like, that man has absolutely no clue what he's talking about. He doesn't know the evils and the horrors that this world actually has to offer. And every now and then, America gets a tiny little glimpse of it, just a tiny little glimpse. And even people like, the FBI, people are giving the FBI a very hard time. And I talked about it this morning on my show. I talked about it yesterday on my show. Last year, November of 2024, just prior to the actual election day, right, when everybody's showing up and voting, just prior to that, the FBI in Oklahoma ended up arresting 2 Afghan nationals inside the United States on special immigrant visas that were inspired by ISIS in coming to conduct a terror attack. That bought 2 AK-47s, 500 rounds of ammunition, and they just got convicted and pled guilty like the other day. And one of them got sentenced on Wednesday. Just this last Wednesday, so a week ago today. These things are very real and they're happening all the time. The issue is that those are not mainstream because everybody's got their ears clogged with Candace Owens and Dave Smith and frickin' Tucker Carlson and all these people, right? That don't bring facts. They just throw out wild theories that they say can't be disproven, so therefore it might be true, right? Instead of using proper analysis.
Yeah, and the other problem is the thing that I've constantly noticed with Candace is she will allege something and then say, look, all they got to do is give me the evidence to prove me wrong. Like, so you're attempting to extort people for information that, by the way, if they did hand that over to you, that would be a violation of the Constitution.
Right.
Or Tyler Robinson. And his, by the way, folks, I just posted on X this morning. His defense is already putting forth a motion saying that the jury pool, because of what has been said and what has been released already, is completely prejudiced against him and that he can't get a fair trial. So that's what's going on. And the bigger thing, when we talk about Charlie Kirk independently, because there's so much that we can kind of go back to and kind of piece together and kind of shove in there, but trying to keep my own focus as well as everybody else's. Like when we talk about motive, one of the things that's been brought up for motive is that Candace alleges, and many other people are alleging, the motive behind Charlie Kirk's death was, number one, Israel, set that aside, but why TPUSA is involved is because there's a couple $1 million or whatever else allegedly missing because some outside source did some weird accounting and is looking at some of their some of their charity information. And we don't know what's going actually on behind the scenes. We don't know their discussions. But a couple $1 million that's missing, let's say it's $10 million. So I did the math on this. Allegedly, not allegedly, basically Charlie Kirk has been credited with, and TPUSA has been credited with basically getting Trump 2.5 million votes. The difference between Kamala and Trump was 2.2 million votes. Wow. So if we just go by what we have, we're saying, hey, Charlie Kirk and TPUSA was, and by the way, I think that is a conservative number. I think it's more than that. Yeah. But he won the election. TPUSA won the election. You're not telling me that that's why the left was going after Charlie Kirk to begin with. That's why they were demonizing him, and ultimately one of the reasons that he was killed. But what's left over after Charlie Kirk is dead is TPUSA. They still are going to be a significant force going into 2028. Whoever that's going to be, it's probably going to be JD Vance. It doesn't matter. The point is that the reason these people are being led down this path to go after TPUSA is for political reasons. They have demonized what everybody considered the best, one of the best organizations in the country. And now, 2 months after Charlie's death, they not only killed the man, they're attempting to completely ruin his legacy as well. And it's because of that. And if we talk about a numerical value, just on that 2.5 million votes, by the way, I went through basically every vote with what Donald Trump spent on his campaign comes down to $19 per vote. 2.5 million votes equals $47 million. So that's the real money value of Charlie Kirk. And again, I think that is significantly, that's way underestimated. I really do. So that's what's at stake. And more importantly, the next presidency and potentially the next, the Senate, the House, and the executive branch could all go to the Democrats. And it's because the right has been fractured over this entire Charlie Kirk thing. And I think it's all disinformation.
Yeah. So there is, this got so bad, the misinformation. We ended up setting up like a Center for Malign Influence over here in the United States, which basically is the United States government going after mis and disinformation. Here in the United States by foreign actors. DHS back in August, I want to say, ended up putting in a warning that also included that. And then on top of all of that, they had also made statements to the effect that Iran had attempted to kill Americans on American soil. They didn't come out and state that they tried to assassinate Donald Trump, and I'm not stating that Iran did try to assassinate Donald Trump, but they have had failed attacks killing Americans, or spoiled ones, right? And when you start talking and you go back to the exploiting things and you start talking about the misinformation, disinformation online, Donald Trump getting elected versus Kamala Harris getting elected have two entirely different outcomes for our foreign adversaries. They have different outcomes for Russia. They have different outcomes for China. They have different outcomes for Iran. They have different outcomes for many FTOs, foreign terror organizations, over inside of the Middle East, right? You look at a lot of the things that have been taking place. Iran's lost its grip on the Middle East. It really has. The IRGC has been pretty much kicked out. I mean, not pretty much. It's been kicked out of Syria. It's been kicked out of Lebanon. Lebanon's starting to turn back a little bit more into a more Western-friendly style country. Turkey is now starting to come out as a more radical country. Syria has been given up to, al-Jilani. So like all of that is just kind of different. And you've got these key players such as Iran, such as Russia, such as China, that have so much money invested that's going to go way north of 47 million. Right. Think about how much it takes to train the IRGC and send them over into Syria. Think about the amount of money that they ended up spending on Hezbollah. Right. Iran, largest state sponsor of terror in the world. And I think that just got surpassed by Russia due to some different verbiage being changed around. But at the end of the day, I mean, they've been funding all sorts of different terror organizations. That's a lot of money invested. A buttload of money that these different nations have invested. So they also have a huge motive to be able to go after them, not just the left, but also the enemies who happen to align with the left, because those enemies, like these foreign nations of ours, would want to see Kamala Harris in charge. I can pull up, different radical jihadists that have came out, since prior reform that will state that they want to see Democrats get elected. Why would you want to see a Republican get elected? Right. You look at, are you familiar with the naked communist from back in like the 1950s and 60s?
I feel like it sounds familiar, but
yeah, it probably sounds familiar. Right. So KGB's rules and marching orders for when they got sent to the United States back in the 50s and 60s to basically subvert the American government. And there's a ton of them, right? There's 48 rules or something like that they ended up going by. And a lot of them involved infiltrating our institutions, taking over the education system, getting God out of school by injecting the idea that it's unlawful because of the separation of church and state, all sorts of, all of those different things, normalizing promiscuity, gay marriage, things like all of that stuff is all injected, including in there, because it tears away at the moral fibers of the United States. And I believe that the Soviet Union understood that takes time. It's kind of like what we didn't understand inside of Afghanistan, right? If we would have started with a generational change in Afghanistan in the early 2000s versus just war by attrition, and then realizing that we had to change and we had to adjust, we would be in a completely different environment than we are today. Maybe those two National Guard soldiers would still be, without bullets in their heads, right? Alive or dead at this point, hopefully alive. And if the thing is that they are currently in that position, right? The moral fibers of this country, if you go through it and read it line by line, the moral fibers of this country have been ripped down to that extent. And so it's the perfect time for them to attack. That work has already been done. Then all they have to do, on their behalf, thank God to technology. They can come in, they can influence people online, they can push transgender issues, they can make Charlie Kirk anti whatever they want by putting out this misinformation online, and then force, in that way, guys like Charlie Shooter to do what he did.
Yeah, and it's like, folks, do you think the deep state went away? Like, just because Trump came in and like the deep state's gone, the same deep state that was attempting to, impeach him, the same deep state that was through bureaucratic action trying to remove him from power, to stop his agenda, to get him prosecuted. Like, they realized all that stuff didn't work. So it's the same deep state folks that are part of the media, part of elements within the government, without a doubt. Definitely part of the political infrastructure, especially on the left. But I will tell you right now, there's a lot of people on the right that hate Trump just as bad as people on the left. a lot of different reasons. And all they're doing is a different attack. And it's being effective. Like I see it all the time now. It's like there's so many people that were all MAGA, that were all Trump, and now they're like, Trump sucks. Do you think Trump really sucks worse than freaking President Biden? Weekend at Bernie's, who had no idea what was going on, who his staffers were running a shadow government and signing executive orders and everything else behind his back with an auto pen. Like, do you really think that's worse? Because we can be at a much worse spot. All the things that Matt just highlighted. There's a reason that they waited until Biden was in power before Russia invaded Ukraine.
Facts.
There's a reason why we didn't have any sort of major military operations or enemy military operations taking place under the first Trump administration. Like, you can say whatever you like. Our enemies think that Trump is crazy, but they also think that he's willing to do what he says he's going to do. And while the Democrats, they will talk all the shit, right? They'll sit there and say, we got to stop Russia. And they will do nothing about it. They will do nothing about it. When it came for the opportunity for Obama to do something about it, he sent blankets and MREs. That's what he did. When we could have given them some military options from the beginning, if we really give a shit about Ukraine, that's when we should have done it. We should have had some sort of deterrent in place, but that's not what happened. But then Trump came in, and it wasn't an issue.
This is, like this is the one thing I tend to stand up to Obama for, right? Like, there's not a lot that I'll stand up to Obama for, but I'll stand up to Obama when it comes to Ukraine. When we first got to Ukraine, it was an absolute shit show. I mean, I don't know how else to put that. You still had major FSB influence that was taking place over inside of that country. Yeah, I mean, like people that look at corruption today inside of Ukraine have, I don't think, any idea what they're talking about. And when all of that was taking place, Obama basically laid it on the table for them. And this is as for like open as I'm going to be about this, but Obama basically laid it on the table for them and told them, you either shit or get off the pot. If you do not correct X, Y, and Z by tomorrow, I am pulling 100% U.S. support out of Ukraine, and you guys are going to be low-hanging fruit for the Russians. So fix it. And I'll be damned if I didn't watch that change happen while we were over there. And so looking at where Ukraine is at today versus Ukraine 10 years ago, it's a completely and totally different environment, completely and totally different military, completely totally different government, completely totally different country, right? So Obama, you're absolutely right, could have given them weapons, but it wouldn't have done them any good. Picture if you were to take like your average U.S. redneck militia, right? Like not even the formalized ones that you can find on the internet, just your average redneck militia,
right?
And give those guys SA-7s, right? Give them belt feds, give them all sorts of crap, right? Give them modern day weaponry, Abrams tanks and freaking attack them, like whatever. I mean, it'd have been bad. It'd have been horrible, right? There is a reason that there was a commercial airliner shot down over the Donbass back in, 2014, right? Like you don't do things like that until people have the proper training and everything properly in place.
No, listen, I agree with you. I am not a big fan of the Ukraine war. As a matter of fact, I'm not a fan of the Ukraine war at all.
Right.
I think that's a regional issue that needs to be solved regionally. Yeah, we can have some influence and things like that, but the more that we get involved with it, the more problems I see. The problem that I have with this is the hypocrisy of when they're talking about how Trump isn't willing to give
that's right
all the support they want when we had Obama in office and all he sent them was blankets, MREs, and there was really no plan in place when it could have been. Like we could have been in a much better spot that would have deterred action as opposed to having to respond to action. And that's the problem that I have with that entire argument from the left, because the left is suddenly all about war.
Right.
I'm not an isolationist, but I'm damn near it. Like we've got to quit meddling in things. And I'm
with you. Unless it benefits the USA, stay the hell out of it. And by the way, we're not very good at influencing foreign governments. We have a horrible track record when it goes down to regime change.
Yeah.
Like a horrible track record.
Yeah, well, there's certain things we're good with. That's not one of them. And this is a great discussion point. Brian Child Guru says, dude, the entire term has been wasted so far. Trump hasn't ended the wars. He bombed the Houthis around. He called Epstein files a hoax. I'm tired of winning. All right. So look, there are definitely, and this is where those seeds are planted. You are correct that there's plenty to criticize Trump administration for. I'm with you. I'm with you on the Epstein files. I'm with you on 90% of those things. But you got to keep the big picture in mind and say, are we, number one, look at inflation compared to what it was under Biden. Huge difference in ways that we can't even really understand. And then on top of that, where we are with the way that the war was progressing under Biden versus Trump, and a host of other things. There are clear differences and advantages of having a Trump administration over a Biden administration. But when we get sucked into these other very valid criticisms, then like we just throw the baby out with the bathwater. And that's what I'm talking about. Just like Matt said earlier, talking about the war that we prosecuted under GWAT, right? In Afghanistan and Iraq. Lots of different, trust me, I have more criticisms the way that we went about that war, and I'm sure Matt does too. That doesn't mean that there aren't elements there that we need to look at and say, hey, this was done well, this wasn't done well. And look, I don't think that we should have went to either one of those. Or if we did go to Iraq or Afghanistan, we should have been there for 6 months tops. And we need to learn how to fight a war and get out of there as opposed to nation building, because the nation building really was a prolonging of the war that I think was mainly because of defense contractors, politicians, and everybody else that was getting rich off of war. I think that's there's a huge element of that for sure. Also, I don't think that we should stay in Afghanistan, but rightly so. I don't think we should have pulled out of Afghanistan the way that we did, leaving billions of dollars worth of blood, sweat, and tears and national treasure and weapons that are going to cause us to have to fight a future war. That's a fact. Like the capabilities that we left with the Taliban in Afghanistan.
You want an example of misinformation or disinformation, actually? Yeah. So the Afghan withdrawal, people blame it on Trump and be like, look, he is the one that went over there. He is the one that ended up dealing with the Taliban. He's the one that set the agreement up in place. I believe it was Milley was the Commander Joint Chief at the time, right? So Milley went on record after that during the congressional inquiry. And he had stated that, I believe it was November. It was the November that the election had taken place. Trump had actually ordered all U.S. troops out of Afghanistan. He had filled a memo and he was like, listen, come the time by election day or come inauguration day, I want all the U.S. troops out of Afghanistan. Milley said he went back to Trump and told Trump, sir, if you do that, we are going to lose all of Afghanistan. The ANA is going to collapse. The Afghan National Army is going to collapse. We're going to lose Kabul. Like everything is going to collapse. You can't do that. The Taliban is not going to hold to it. Trump immediately, within the same day he talked to Milley, rescinded that order and made sure it didn't take place and extended everything out. And the reason he had extended it out is because the Taliban had violated the agreement. And so he wasn't about to do it. Now, when Joe Biden got in office, he got told the exact same advice, the exact same intel. He ignored it. And he ignored it for so long. You know, I interviewed guys from that were on the ground for the evacuation. I don't know if you were like me. I got a text, man. And this is the wild thing. Excuse me. I got a signal message before it all was about to go down, offering me a ridiculous amount, like $5,000 a day or something, if I had a passport with a valid visa to fly out to the freaking East Coast, and I'd be gone, in 24 hours or something to go over there and help out with that. I mean, that's how unprepared they were. Guys from the 82nd Airborne on GRF were out in the field over at Fort Bragg. They got pulled out of the field, told to grab their bags, and flown directly out there. I mean, this is the type of crap that was taking place. If you're going to have the world's largest NEO of all time taking place, you better make damn sure that everything is set in motion and ready to go. Now, those guys, when they ended up getting to Afghanistan, and this circles right back to today and why Trump ended up putting the stay right on those visas and being like, look, we are going over everything. We are going to comb through these Afghan visas. We're going to comb through these people from 2021 to 2022 with a fine-tooth comb. The guys that were out there on the airfield, soldiers and Marines that were screening the visas that were coming on, do you think they got training on the paperwork on what to actually look for? The guys that were at the gate to let them come on the airfield? No. They got some of them got minimum training when they were over in Kuwait. At one point, a guy from Department of State had gone up to the gate and actually said, hey, don't worry about paperwork from this point forward. You don't have to worry about it. Then they came back, told him that, yes, now you have to worry about paperwork. Then it was be on the lookout because they're all just copying each other's SIV paperwork to get through the gates. Nobody was properly screening that paperwork. Nobody was doing anything. And it's not like we could evac them back into Afghanistan afterwards and drop them off on a C-17 and say, thanks for playing. You guys gave us the wrong paperwork, because they'd all get killed. All of those people ended up getting distributed around like the EU and the United States of America. And that is why we're seeing things. That is my suspicion, at least in D.C. I know for a fact that's likely what ended up taking place with those two ISIS guys. If I remember right, one of them had faulty visa paperwork and was involved in the evac. And it's the fault of the Biden administration. And it is extreme amounts of dis and misinformation, because if you let Donald Trump take over and stuff like that ends up getting fixed, well, you're going to have terror attacks, or you're not going to have as many terror attacks here in the United States. You're not going to have any illegals pulling over the border, right? I think there's a huge amount of foreign influence that goes into that for those very reasons. And that goes back into why Charlie Kirk, it could be an assassination plot, or it could be a trans Tifa guy that just flew off the rails. This is all stuff that the Bureau is going to have to dig into.
And it's a win-win for our enemies no matter what. And
right.
That's the thing that people don't realize. And again, when you look at all of these people that are pushing, these different, we'll just call them alternative theories, and that are adversarial to TPUSA, Charlie Kirk's legacy, and everything else. If you go back and look at their Twitters, and folks, I'm going to end up doing a full video on this. All the main actors, they have one thing in common. They were anti-Semitic before, and I had this conversation with Matt. Like, I am indifferent to Israel, but I am sick of hearing that Israel is the problem for everything. And by the way, the same people that are now justice for Charlie were texting, tweeting to Charlie, responding to Charlie like, "Hey, you're nothing but a freaking Israeli shill."
Israeli shill.
All the same stuff. And these are the exact same people that are simping for Candace Owens. And
that's right.
I think, quite frankly, I think Candace is being unwittingly roped into some of this stuff.
That's right.
Just because she likes clicks and views. She wants a political platform on the right, and that it's not money. Her husband's a multimillionaire. I'm sure she has plenty of money. Sure. I think it's about political power and influence that's what she holds dear. And that's what she's getting right now. And I'm telling you, when all this information comes out, this is so short-sighted, because she had such an opportunity to be a voice of reason on the right that she had been in the past. And she has sold it all for this very temporary thing, because when the information comes out, and I know people are going to try to discredit it either way, but when information comes out, there's going to be enough people to say, you know what, we were lied to the entire time.
That's right. I mean, is it so hard to believe that Candace Owens got it wrong? It's one thing to get a little bit of mis or disinformation out of a news article and get your source wrong there, or not do the due diligence and double, triple check those things. And I still get some stuff like that wrong. It's completely different to get an email from somebody that gives you your attorney's address, and you end up putting that out as a conspiracy theory, and you get called for it online. And that is something that, her crowd will immediately dismiss, and they'll pretend like it's not a thing, and they won't look at everything else that she's thrown out there. And it's sad to me, man. It's mindless lemmings in the United States of America that want to believe in this stuff, that want to believe that there's other issues, and they can't believe that half the problems in this country are caused by you and me and everybody else. There's no personal accountability. Every single time something happens in this country, it's somebody else's fault. Every single time. Illegal immigrants on SNAP, not our fault. It's somebody else's. It's disgusting.
100%. Yeah, and look, you can go through a lot of her videos, and you can find such either deceit, lies, whatever you want to call them, all right, intentional or unintentional, logical fallacies in this picture and this tapestry that she's painted all along the way. And folks, like, with zero evidence, that's the problem that I have with this. It's like, you demand evidence of the FBI. Give me evidence. Give me evidence from Utah. Every whole video, like everybody talking about the video of Tyler Robinson being turned in. What material does that have? We know he's in jail. Like, what are you trying to prove? That he didn't freaking, get beamed up over there? Like, I don't even know what that proves, but it's a chink in the armor. It's something that people can point to and say, that doesn't exist. And by the way, Miss Jane Doe, on X, she broke the story the other day that the news organization that sent that either got it wrong or lied, because they do have that videotape. It has been classified for now until the trial, but it does exist. Just like all the other stuff that people say that didn't exist. They said, him taking the shot, him moving into position. That video doesn't exist. It does exist. They just don't give it to you.
They also say that he didn't have a rifle when he jumped off the roof, and he most certainly did.
Yeah,
it is clear as day when the guy ends up touching the ground. You can see the rifle in his hand. Absolutely exists. You can see it. That is publicly available information, and yet we still have idiots running around the internet, breaking down rifles with screwdrivers, acting like it is some sort of a massive conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
that is the problem.
Or that it's just some sort of super complicated, sophisticated thing that needs to be done. Like, folks, when he was 8, he's 11 now. All right. When he was 6, 7, 8 years old, was back there helping me put rifles together. It takes 2 action screws to take a stock or a chassis and put it onto a barrel back. There's nothing sophisticated hard about it. Any idiot with the appropriate tools can do that. It takes 1 tool, 2 bolts, put it together, tighten them down, and then your gun is going to shoot. It's not that hard. 140-yard shot. Everybody's turning this into like, oh, it's such a hard, difficult, skill-required shot. It's not.
It's not.
I could take one person that has never shot a gun before, that's halfway mentally sound and physically capable. I can give them a 10-minute class, and they will hit a target 140 yards away with a magnified optic 10 out of 10 times. Guarantee it. With a 10-minute
at least their first shot they're going to hit. Second shot they're going to flinch and screw it up, but their first shot they're going to nail it.
Yeah,
and then they're going to But
and
but then they'll come back.
This kid's been shooting for a long time, so like
he had targets in his boyfriend's room.
Yep,
that's right. Yeah. So it's silly to me that people are acting like that's not a big deal. Also, that for some reason taking it off the chassis is going to somehow mess with it. It's not. And I'll tell you something else too.
It's not 140 yards. It's not going to look
no.
at 140 yards.
No, not at all. I mean, how tight he's holding it in his shoulder is going to have a much bigger difference than taking it on and off. The biggest thing to me is him walking up those stairs and not having a rifle tucked into his pants. That's the only one that I can't come to. But there's also other logical explanations for that, like it was pre-positioned prior to. There's lots of other things. They do say that they have video. They didn't release the video, but they do say they have videos of him walking around with it. It's possible that they have videos of him walking around with it and just released a video of him going up and down the stairs after he had pre-positioned it and then went and was looking for other locations in order to fire the shot. That's the most likely course of action, in my opinion. So, I mean, he's not just going to go up with a rifle and stand on a roof if he doesn't know if he has a shot. It would make sense to me for him to go up there, stash it, and then go find a good shot and then go recover the rifle and move into position. So, I mean, just things like that.
Well, the other thing that is just so odd to me is the complete rejection of any evidence at all in the way that people twist themselves into a pretzel. And then, by the way, if you get a eyewitness on how they immediately start character assassination, and then like, you're not saying what I want you to say and confirming my bias. So you are some sort of bad actor, and like it's some person just saying what happened. I mean, it's nuts to me. And not only that, there's just so many other clear evidence of people just twisting people's words and doing crazy things and trying to create. Like, the government's not trying to create a narrative. And
No.
Look, I went into this extremely critical and skeptical of everything that the government has said. I didn't care what the narrative was. All I did was look at the evidence and say, okay, what happened here? Okay, look, clearly he shot from the front. Where did that come from? The most logical place. And by the way, I went out there, got a drone scan. I gave everybody out there a 3D model,
Right.
completely to scale 3D model, so that all of you can go through there and look at lines of sight and look at where there's a possibility of a shot. And again, like, who else is Candace doing that? Has Candace even been to the site? She's never been there. Are all these other people creating content from behind a keyboard? Have they gone there and talked to people and figured things out? No, they haven't. And there's a reason for that, because they are the ones with the narrative to push. It's not the people with the evidence. And if they don't have evidence to back anything that they say, and I haven't seen anything from Candace other than, I have a feeling about this person. And that's another thing too. It's like, she randomly picks people that she is introduced into the story and like, you know what? I'm just this person's giving me bad vibes. Yep. And just destroying this person's character and credibility before you're even given a chance to objectively assess of what role this person plays in the story. And it's deceitful. I'm telling you, it is It is classic information operations, and it is classic propaganda. And the amount of Americans that are falling for it, I'm super disappointed, to say the least.
Yeah, the amount of times that I ended up getting told, just take out of the Charlie Kirk situation, take out of that. And this to me is one of those situations where it's mindless lemmings, right? Where we have a population filled with mindless lemmings right now that just want confirmation bias.
Yeah.
When I was covering Israel very, very heavy, ended up getting told that we had, how do I want to say this? That GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and the Israeli Defense Force were over inside of Gaza murdering thousands of civilians. It was basically a giant murder trap for them to come over and to get humanitarian aid, and they would just gun them down. I went over to Israel, ended up filming a straight, like almost 1 hour video of an aid distribution, dang near start to finish, until everything ended up overheating. And you cannot fake 10,000 plus people running into your site, right? Running up there, being as happy, being as organized, being as friendly as they are. You can't, if you are mistreating people in that manner, they're not coming to you. Right. They take out the human factor of common sense, which is common sense says, listen, if you're gunning me down, I'm not doing this. And even though that video exists, nope, you're getting paid by Israel. You are some sort of propagandist. You are this, you are that. And I'm like, there's a straight hour video. Nobody on this planet can take 10,000 people and to get them to behave in that manner. And yet, even with undeniable video evidence in their face, they will still want to push that narrative because they've been lied to. When people believe in a lie so much, it becomes like part of their personality, right? Like it has for Candace and it has for a lot of these people. It is a personal attack when you present them with facts. When somebody ends up stating, you will never convince me of, you need to end that conversation because they don't have an open mind. They don't want actual evidence. They don't want actual facts. They want confirmation of what they believe in. And unfortunately, that's what we see today in the United States. We see a lot of people that you are never going to convince. Don't even argue with them. There's no point in it.
Well, look, folks, one of the things that I've tried to do, I've been extremely careful about, and all the videos that we put out, is I give you evidence of everything that I'm telling you about. And we've talked a little bit about Candace and what's going on with this. And I want to share with you some just a really short clip of proof of how she is absolutely deceitful in the way that she presents information. So right here, I can't see the screen right now. Matt, are we seeing a Premiere Pro video?
Yes, I am.
All right. So I want to show you this clip, folks. And this is going back to the text messages, right? Everybody said the text messages were fake. And it was because of Candace, because she goes through these text messages and she just completely undermines them on top of some other things about talking about how he doesn't say vehicle. That's weird. He doesn't say this or doesn't say that. Now, I want us to put our critical thinking hats on for just a moment. Let's say that the FBI did make up those texts. Do you think any sane FBI agent would actually make this, I don't know, dime store Shakespearean text stream up and try to, like, that is what they went with? But I want to play this real quick. And I want to make sure that you guys are getting audio out of this.
Topic of rhetoric.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I am told that Tyler absolutely did not author those text messages. What text messages? He has no idea where these messages came from. Believes that they are therefore entirely fictionalized. It turns out, I'd be shocked, that he doesn't actually use words like vehicle, which should come as no surprise to anyone that has a brain. Yeah. By the way, I'm sure you caught this, but there's old footage of Tyler Robinson that is now circulating from a car accident that he had. And during the discussion with the officer that showed up, Tyler certainly refers to it as his car, not his vehicle, because that's how most Americans, how most English speakers refer to a car, unless they're in the military or on the police force. So here is 2022 police body cam footage, in case you missed that, of Tyler making a crash report. Take a listen.
Your mom's on her way? Yeah, she's gonna be a minute. She's got to shuttle over from where she's at to her car.
All right. First of all, who the F says shuttle over in her car? Like, that's like, if we're going to talk about anything weird, like,
thank you.
I've never used that term, like, ever. Like, I'm going to shuttle you over here in that. But anyways, I digress. Let's continue. He said car.
Not to mention, who's her source? Before she even gets into it, who's her source? And you're talking about years have passed.
Clearly, I hope that $7,000 asking for a source was worth it.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah. Israel doesn't have enough money to pay me for the amount of crap that I've came out and actually spoken on their behalf for. It's absolutely nuts. We wouldn't be having this conversation. I would be president of the United States. I'd have bought Donald Trump's presidency from him from the amount of posts that I have made on Israel. I promise you that.
All right, so let's play this out.
Gonna shuttle over from her car. Interesting. There's more, of course.
All right, so there is more, but she doesn't play any more of that clip. But now let's same clip, just a couple seconds later.
Looking at the lights?
Yeah, I was looking up at the light just before getting there.
Okay.
I saw it shift yellow. And as I get into the intersection, the bolts, there was a vehicle in the lane between, there was a vehicle in the lane between, there was a vehicle in the
I mean, that's just a couple of seconds later. That's a couple of seconds later. So are you telling me?
Can I steal this clip? I gotta steal this clip and share it. I'm stealing this clip. I don't care. You sue me. That's hilarious.
I mean, that is clear deception on her part. Like, gonna shuttle over in a car, that the shuttle part's not weird, but to say vehicle is weird. And the same thing that she uses to undermine all the text messages.
She's lying.
She literally says 10 seconds later. Like,
she's lying.
She is 100% lying. 100% lying. That whole clip is like 3 minutes long. And
she's lying.
She edited that down because that's all she showed and convinced millions of people that, these whole texts, they have no validity because he doesn't say vehicle. And he does.
All right. Devil's advocate.
Sure.
Do you think Candace is putting these narratives together on her own, or do you think people are feeding her videos, or she finds little random things and doesn't bother to fact check them?
It's probably a mix of both. I don't even think she cares anymore. Like, honestly, it's either just so sloppy or intentionally deceptive that, and again, I can go through every single video of hers, folks, and do this. And then just like show logical fallacies time and time again, the way that she's projecting her own disorganized brain on other people, it doesn't make sense. So, hold on. I want to throw this up here.
Yeah, do it.
That's fine. I don't care if you believe me or not. All right. First of all,
Tucker Carlson, see it.
Logical brain. If you're using any sort of like, you can't go through this charging document and discredit all this evidence that's going to be
right
tested in court. Like
that's a fact.
And this is just the evidence that we know of. We know, like, the evidence that we have. I think he could get a conviction off just that. We don't know about the voluminous amount of evidence that his own defense attorney said, "Hey, we can't do this. We can't do this court hearing now. We got to do it in January." Because there's a voluminous amount of evidence that we have to go through. So that's why they pushed it off. The defense asked for additional time to go through the amount of evidence they have. All the footage that you guys want. Like, I think this is going to end up being one of the most clear-cut cases. And if you don't believe it, that's fine. You're deciding to believe that not only without evidence, but in spite of evidence. It has turned into a religion for you.
I would bet you too, there's going to be a paper trail that points to other things that helped influence and push him along the way, and that there's other, either unnamed, but there's probably co-conspirators that are yet to come out, that they haven't figured out who they are. They don't have enough, probable cause on them, but there's probably likely other people that are going to be involved in this as well, that at least had knowledge, information, etc. And they probably got amnesty for being able to come out.
Yeah, I think part of that is Lance Twist. Look, I think there were multiple people that knew about it. We haven't even got into the more nefarious side of it. If he ended up having some sort of co-conspirators online, that may or may not be some sort of element that have helped to radicalize him and to weaponize him and point him toward Charlie. We don't know if there was any sort of material help. We don't know any of those things. All that stuff didn't come out. But I don't like. And here's my concern too, Matt. I think one of the reasons that we haven't seen more information come out with Thomas Crooks. I think there probably is evidence of some of those things.
Yep.
And I don't think, and maybe it's not necessarily a nefarious reason, but I think the government doesn't want us to know that these kids and other people, including adults, can be radicalized so easily online. And I think that may be something that they're trying to hide. I think it's wrong. And I think you as the federal government, we have the right to know what's going on so that we can protect our family, we can protect our kids, and we can take this stuff a little bit more seriously.
That's right.
But I do think that is one of the elements that has been completely left out of this.
Yeah. There are people being radicalized online. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Zero doubt about it. You can actually look. I mean, I could pull it up and put it up on my screen right now. Those Afghans I talked about that ended up getting busted last November, right before Election Day. Those Afghans, I mean, just mounds of evidence within their criminal complaint that shows all of the downloadable ISIS material, like the radicalization material. This guy had a Google Drive full of it. So it is happening. It is taking place. They do have access to that information. It does exist out there. And it's not just when it goes down to radical Islam or killing Charlie Kirk. You've got the same stuff that's happening when it goes down to Antifa and everything else. So,
yeah, no, I think you're right. Look, it's the same thing. It's how kids get, inducted into gangs, into other criminal activity, into drug, it's all that stuff, but probably at a much higher level to where, again, I think they have turned this into a very sophisticated formulaic system where, they know it works and they've been doing this stuff for a really long time. They know exactly who to target. They know what to say to that person. And they know, and I don't think they are 100% successful. I think they're looking for that, they're doing it simultaneously to 100 people, and they're looking for that one that's going to end up acting.
That's all they need.
And that's exactly all they need. And then, by the way, there's no risk because until they do
that's the big one.
We don't even know anything about it.
That's the big one. It's not just
community,
but it's also being able to say that they're hands off from whatever organization or whoever it is that's actually out there conducting it. Right. It's very hard for foreign actors, especially, to be able to get caught, and especially for the United States. If let's say any of these individuals that we've talked about tonight were influenced by anybody overseas, not just here at home, United States government coming out and stating that, imagine the United States coming out stating that Russia influenced X individual to kill Charlie Kirk. Hell, there is a guy that just got found guilty in court, New York federal court, I think a week ago. Goes by the name of the Butcher. Ask BX about him. She knows all about this guy. And the guy literally influenced a school shooting on January 22nd here in the United States of America. He also tried to recruit people for a ricin attack, along with an IED attack over inside New York City. And he was doing all this crap from the country of Georgia.
Yeah. Again, there's so many Georgia, Ukraine, all these Eastern Bloc countries. There's so much coming out of there. And again, we're not even talking about, look, I think there is really evil elements within the United States that, whether you want to talk about pockets of inside the government, but also outside the government, political actors. Look, I think all of us agree there are some major anti-American ideological forces that are well funded here in the United States. George Soros. And these are all the funds and the actions that are taken that are overt. There is 10 times as much taking place that is covert, and that we don't even realize that they're trying to influence our kids in different ways. Having them from the cradle to the grave and from school to everything else that they're exposed to, that's not enough. We got to get them sooner. We got to get them for longer. We have to completely indoctrinate them. And that's what's taking place. And the right is far behind. It's just, it isn't. I work on indoctrinating my kids in the beliefs that I have, because that's what I want them to be able to, that's what I believe. And I want them, and I think that those are American principles. And if I don't indoctrinate them, somebody else will.
That's right. So, all right, big scary thought. We know how many different foreign influence accounts are over on TikTok pushing all sorts of crap, right? I talk about one on my show over the last week. Guy goes by the name of the General. He's pushing, white nationalism, KKK style stuff, and they have all of this crap that goes on, right? But imagine if that's what's floating around on X, which most kids these days, your high schoolers, teenagers, young kids, college, whatever, don't really have. Like, a lot of them don't use X. They'll use Instagram, and the other big one is TikTok. And TikTok's where they get it all from. And when you go and you talk to actually like the people that know coding, know all about that app, it's actually a very, very scary app. What they end up getting out of it, it actually, with the access to the camera, actually senses your facial expressions. It can, with smartphones now, it can actually read the pulse as you're scrolling through on your screen. It can measure the different things in the different style. So if these countries, such as China, want to push a certain amount of propaganda to these different age demographics, they're able to measure that out in several different ways. So if a certain message isn't speaking well to youth, it might have a lot of different views, but it might not be hitting the right demographic, or they don't know why. They're able to very quickly assess what does and what doesn't work, and that's how they're able to get these false narratives pushed out so freaking fast. So if you think for some reason that that's not happening to your kids, you're dead wrong. Absolutely dead wrong. Hell, dude, even fellow Green Beret, Anthony Aguilar, guy's a complete and total retard as far as I'm concerned. Complete and total retard as far as I'm concerned. He had an interview that he thought he was doing with an NGO, from what he told me over the phone. And when I was talking to him, I was like, look, man, why were you on TikTok talking with a pro-Hamas account? He goes, I wasn't on TikTok. I was like, yeah, you were. Here's the proof. Like, what were you doing on TikTok? No. I was working with like Frontlines. I was like, okay. And I go look up Frontlines. Yep, it's a subset of Al Jazeera. And he was supposedly interviewing that kid's mom and all this other crap. The point being that they are taking people and they are rapidly converting and screwing them over at an alarming rate inside of this country, and it's showing today. There's a reason when CPS or CBP ends up showing up into town, or ICE, or any DHS agent, or anything ends up coming out, that there's 1,000 different pieces of misinformation that end up spreading online. Some of them are bad actors here in the United States of America that just don't like Trump, that just don't like our country, that love communism, love whatever. But a lot of it is coming from overseas. A lot of that misinformation is coming from overseas, and they're prepped and they're ready for it because they know these things are coming out. So they're developing these false narratives. They're pushing it to further divide this country, and it's driving me nuts. Because Americans are just stupid, and we're biting this crap hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like, it's not a right or a left thing, folks. They're just trying to cause chaos.
On both sides.
On all sides of what's going on here in the United States, and continue to sow more distrust in our government. And look, our government deserves very little. Here's where I stand with this. I don't trust my government. All right? I don't. I'm skeptical of everything that's put out, because there's disinformation agents within our own government, within every party, and you don't know what's true or what's not. But I want to be able to determine why I don't trust my government based on actual facts. Right. I don't want a foreign adversary, or a political adversary, or an ideological moron to convince me of things that are not true. You know what I mean? It's almost like I know why I have this problem with this person in my family, but you got no business telling me like things that I know aren't true about this family member. Like, you stay out of my shit. And that's how I feel about this. And that's what's being done. And people are so biased. It's like, the government can say, hey, it's raining outside. And Candace Owens says, no, it's not raining outside. You can go outside, you're standing there getting soaked, and you're like, Candace is right. When that's happening, you're a moron. All right. And you have gotten to a point, and you know what? I scratched that. I don't want to call you a moron. You've gotten to a point. I apologize. You're not a moron. You've gotten to a point, for whatever reason, that you've become gullible enough to be psychologically influenced in a way and manipulated in a way that is unhealthy. And the way that you combat all of that stuff is what I said earlier. Whatever narrative, whatever piece of information has the most evidence, makes the most sense, and is the most logical, is usually going to be the correct narrative. And if you're following down a rabbit hole that has zero evidence, it doesn't make sense, it's not even coherent. Like, someone please tell me, okay, what we've established with Candace Owens is that Tyler he is not the shooter. Everybody's super protective of him. This poor guy, he's just being railroaded. There's some elements of that I can go down as well. How did Charlie die? Who shot him? Where did they shoot him from? This super sophisticated, complex international assassination is taking place, and they go and they're so good that they have some sort of patsy. People will say that it wasn't even Tyler on there, but they have some sort of patsy on the roof. They didn't shoot him from the roof, I guess, but then they shot him. Nobody else saw another shooter. Nobody heard another shooter in a very compact area. Folks, I'm telling you, that place is so much smaller than you think it is. So somebody shot him in that very compact area. Nobody saw him. Nobody heard it. They got away. And then, oops, you know what? Hey, what gun do we have the patsy with? It was a 30-06. Fuck. I brought 5.56. Like, that's where it all fell apart. That's where you forgot. That's where they messed up. This super smart, sophisticated element, but they messed it up. But please, someone tell me, how did Charlie die? Because I can't get that. I've watched through multiple episodes of Candace. I can't see that never comes out. We never get explained the how, and then the who changes constantly. Like, I need some elements here, and then on top of that, give me some evidence for those elements. And I can't. I've never seen it. Never seen it.
I thought for dang sure, you know, when Charlie Kirk happened just a couple days before I went wheels up to Israel, and I thought for dang sure by the time I came back it would be over. And when I got back, it was still going on. I was appalled at the crap that I saw. You remember the first day, first day it happened, people started to come out with their stupid conspiracy theories and everything else, started blaming it. And people were like, just give the family a day to breathe, man.
Yeah.
And now it's not even enough to go after the shooter. Now they're going after his wife. Now they're going after everybody. It's disgusting to me that they go after Charlie's wife and they go, well, is this how a human being would that just lost her husband? Yeah. When was the last time any American besides her, minus JFK's wife, but even JFK wasn't assassinated in 4K from that close of a position?
With literally thousands of cameras pointed at him.
With the entire world and the internet and all of this crap going on, there is no normal human reaction to that.
Yeah.
There just isn't. There is no normal reaction. There's no normal way to grieve when it comes to that situation. And even you could take two people, you and me, and we could go through the same exact experience, and we're going to come out with different points of view, different takes on it, and different bodily reactions that end up coming out of it, different forms of trauma, and we're going to deal with it in two completely different ways. And that's a very, very basic scenario. But when you're in like a very good, loving relationship like that, in your best friend's life, you know, your soulmate gets ripped out in front of you, and you have all of these nut jobs that are coming out on day one. How dare you go after that woman? Yeah. How dare you? Yeah, it's disgusting. I even saw him dragging like J.D. Vance into it, accusing J.D. Vance of like slapping her butt and talking about whatever articles of clothing she decided to wear. It's disgusting. It's sad.
Well, look, you know, I think it's all coming kind of full circle. I think J.D. Vance almost was the target for a lot of, and again, there's so many, the disinformation is so multifaceted and coming from so many different directions. It's kind of hard to keep track, but I think that is one of the main targets, period, was to make sure, because I think it's pretty clear that we're going to have a J.D. Vance as a candidate. I think a lot of this has been a long-term exploitation of a bad situation to make sure that J.D. Vance, to undermine everything going around this and the Trump administration, J.D. Vance, and everybody surrounding his circle. There's definitely elements of that for sure that is intended to go after, to stop, to make sure that Democrats are elected in 2028. That's the point, folks. And some of you are going along with this. You're captured into it, and you don't even realize it. And it's sad. This is not about Candace. What I'm telling you, this is about your own cognitive security. Like, you've got to make sure that you understand how to process information and not just go along with whatever. And I'm trying to, and Matt's doing the same thing, and many people else out there are like, guys, we are being bombarded with disinformation, and we are in an information operation war, and many of you are unwittingly casualties of that war, and we got to get America back on track.
Yeah, what's the saying? A lie can travel halfway around the world, and the truth is still trying to put its shoes on. I mean, it's the absolute truth, and that's what people have learned. And sadly, and I mean absolutely sadly, it has become commonplace.
Yeah.
People are willing to put things out before they get facts. I put out the shooter from D.C. today getting wheeled up into the back of an ambulance, and I immediately had people in the comment section when I dropped a picture of that shooter saying, that's not the shooter, that's a lie, that's from 2024, that's from a couple days ago. And they hadn't even gone to see if they could conduct a simple Google image search and see if it had appeared before today, which it doesn't. It didn't exist before today, none of that stuff. But the most shocking portion about it is Grok in X and people using AI to try to confirm their beliefs. Have you looked into how Grok actually confirms whether or not it thinks things are facts or not? Grok will tell you.
No, but I have. It's mostly untrue.
I have. It's disgusting. You know, Grok's primary. So when you go, and I mean, you could throw it up on the screen right now, and you could ask Grok a simple question. Most of the time, it'll tell you, according to X posts, is what it ends up saying. And what it does is the most amount of information that is within agreement is what it basically concurs as the facts. This is how I learned it, by the way, was talking to Grok. Like literally just having conversations with Grok on my phone in order to ascertain how it actually does this. And if there's not community notes attached to it, it takes it as a fact. Well, how long does it take to get community notes? And just like we saw with, what's his name, Senator Kelly's uniform the other day, people were saying, well, it was taken in a mirror. No, it wasn't. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And so people were going around. There's community notes on the Secretary of War's freaking post calling out his uniform standard, which I think is a little bit ridiculous, but I also think it's a funny troll, right? But either way, it's a point of how stupid people are. Because number one, there's a community note saying it's taken into a mirror. You can zoom in and you can read in clear English, global war on terror on one of the medals, right? So it's not flip-flopped. It's not in a mirror image. But Grok will literally just say whatever is being mass reported. And I think that's why we started off having so much, truthfully, misinformation when it came down to the war in Gaza, when it's coming down to what's happening over here in the United States of America. 17 million Jews in the world, over 2 billion Muslims. And most of the Muslims are going to side with the Palestinians every day of the week. Most of them.
Yeah.
Who do you think is blasting out the most information? Who do you think is corrupting Grok? Who do you think is putting that information out there? You have a lot of people that are doing it. We're not even talking about Chinese bot farms, Russian bot farms, foreign, like all of that crap that's influencing what you are taking in on a daily basis. It's disgusting. Every time somebody asks, hey, Grok, is this true? I want to slap that person upside the head. But they don't know any better. They don't.
Yeah. No, and it's and we're still at a moment in time where reality can be somewhat distinguished. Within the next 4 or 5 years, folks, with AI, like everybody will have access to be able to make up whatever crazy video, picture, letter, proof of this, proof of that. And if you don't reinforce your own sanity and your own, ability to reason, like that's how we get we get made to do things and believe things that we don't want to believe. You wouldn't believe it under normal circumstances.
I mean, just an example within the last, 24 hours, Kash Patel being fired by Donald Trump. Kash Patel was literally sitting in the White House with Donald Trump, and then they had to go out and take a picture. Caroline Leavitt ended up having to put out, Kash Patel wasn't fired. I was literally sitting there with Donald Trump and Kash Patel. We all laughed about it when it ended up hitting, took this picture to put it out, stop spreading, lies. It's a problem in this country. It's a huge problem. Who are these anonymous sources? Because the news has been getting away with it for a very long time, and they're wrong every single time. Every time you see, according to an anonymous source, 99% of the time, it's wrong. Yeah.
Well, and this has been one of my points with Candace and some of the other folks out there. It's like, look, we've already seen what mainstream media did. They destroyed themselves with the exact same tactics that these short-sighted people are doing. They get clicks. There was lots of people that watched MSNBC. There was lots of people that watched CNN until they did, because they realized they were completely non-credible. And that's what's going to happen to Candace and some of these other folks, because continuing to use, not only like it only goes one way. It goes whatever way that you would expect. If I was starting to hear a story from Candace, I'm like, all right, this is where we're going to end up. And we end up there every single time. And it's been reinforced by these anonymous sources. There's no evidence. There's nothing else backing it up. And yet she gets to where she wants to go. She gets to confirm her bias every single time. And she paints a picture for you without ever even considering other options. It's dishonesty through omission. It's all the stuff that has destroyed the mainstream media, and now she's doing it. Yeah, she has a cult following, just like MSM and some of these other folks that went there to get their biases confirmed. It feels good, but it's a complete lack of mental discipline is really what it is.
Yeah. And the other problem that ends up rippling through mainstream media and people like Candace is they'll take one source and not fact check it, not go back. I tell every single person that follows me on YouTube, every single person over on X, don't take my word for it. Do your own due diligence. Like, do not take anything anybody says as fact. Go fact check and then fact check the fact, like triple check your sources to make sure that what you have is solid. And if it's not, like, make up your own conclusion, and you should be stating whether or not things are factual or whether or not things are your opinion. And unfortunately, things like Candace Owens, she puts out things that are 100% opinion. I'm actually really happy that you're able to catch that one very blatant lie, and it should make everybody question everything that you're hearing in these stupid little clips that end up coming out.
And it won't. Unfortunately, it won't. Again, what I'm going to hear is, and what we're going to hear is, why are you attacking Candace? She's just asking questions. That's another thing that has really irritated me to no end is, no, when you're accusing people of murder through a question, it's not asking questions. All right. Number one, you're insulting my intelligence. And on top of that, you're being completely dishonest, disingenuous. And like, I don't understand why people can't see through that and understand how vile that actually is. Look, I did the interview with Brian Harpole, and I spent some time with him before, and then hearing what his guys, look, these guys are getting death threats. Their families are concerned, and when you sit across from these people that are good Americans, you can see that their lives have been destroyed, not only by the fact that their friend was killed in front of them, but now they're being, Rick Cutler. They were back there smiling while they were working on him. You're not very intelligent if you believe that. All right. What that was a screenshot out of, if you watch that video in normal speed, not once would you say, oh, those guys are back there smiling. They're clearly grimacing at what's in front of them. But somebody took a screenshot that was out of a slow motion video and then put some sort of text down. Well, not some sort. Look at these guys smiling and joking while they're actually happy that Charlie's dead. And then they throw that out on the internet. And now you've been tricked into seeing something that doesn't even exist. And people pass that and pass that. Look what's going on. Look. And now this has turned into something that's not. And these guys with real families are being damaged in ways that you can't imagine. And if you have no humanity within you, continue to pass on those lies with zero evidence to back it. Zero evidence.
Yep. Yeah, it's happened to me. I went on to go narrate a space in between Israeli soldier and somebody that was pro-Palestinian. And they were talking about children with guns. Same conversation that I ended up having with Nate. Where killing kids is wrong. All right, well, why can't we have the conversation why those kids have guns in their hands? Why aren't we having that conversation? Because that's exactly what happened. Give personal testimony to the different things I've seen and the different experience I've had with Islamic extremism, and talked about it, and end up having that clip taken and cut and changed and shared all the way up. It didn't make it on. Originally, it was told that it was over on Tim Cass, but it ended up not making it on Tim Pool's show. It was like one of his people that he has on his show that ended up playing it one day. Look, regardless, it's absolutely ridiculous that people cannot see through the BS. That they can't go through it and look and say, this doesn't sound right. This doesn't sound like it makes sense. And they'll take little clips, they'll share them. People think it's egregious, and they just run with it. It's sad, man.
It is. Let's do this. We'll open up the floor to some questions. I'm sure that will go on for quite a bit. Yeah, we covered the shooter was from Afghanistan. Josh Hyatt became a YouTube member. Thank you very much. So DC shooting was a terrorist attack. Yeah, I think it's, I mean, I don't know if you need a declaration of it, but clearly it was a terrorist attack. Yeah. Awesome job on the Brian Harpel interview. Did you find him credible? If so, if not, why? He appeared extremely nervous, fidgety, dry mouth, lack of eye contact. He stated smaller drones were airborne. I don't know where you guys heard that he stated smaller drones were airborne. Look, there is a picture going around. It's on my X that I also think is what was seen by Frank Turek, where he thought that that was a drone footage. That is a 360 cam picture or some other wide view. It has a big fisheye view that somebody had on top of the second deck. It's clearly not drone footage, but I understand why people think it is. There's been no evidence that there was drones in the air at any point in time. There is a possibility that before Charlie arrived, that the AV team threw up a drone and then were told to get it out of the air. I'm telling you right now, UVU is extremely, I experienced it, right? I put up a drone. They told me to get it out of the air. Again, I talked about it in the interview with Brian Harpel. They think they have authority over their airspace. It's not how it works. But there's a lot of people that feel that way, and lots of institutions and colleges and things like that. And the cops don't understand the law and how that works either. That's just that's just a fact. So that's where I think that information came from. I did ask Brian if he saw any drones. He said he didn't see any drones or anything like that. I don't know if we hit that in the interview, but we covered that pretty deep. Here's one thing I will say on the interview. I ended up watching it 2 times. Look, interviewing people is a skill unto itself. And I see a lot of room of improvement on my side. We talk too much in some other areas. And I knew that going in, folks, or, as we started to edit this thing, and I was tempted to cut a bunch of the stuff out, but I was already getting asked, well, or what are you going to cut out? What are you going to cover for them? All these silly things. I was like, you know what? I'm posting everything. Literally the only thing that was cut out was at the beginning when I said, all right, here's Brian Harpel. I was reading, folks, the lighting was bad. I was reading a paper. I think it was like, I don't know, the font size was like 3. Like I could barely see it. And I said, Brian Harpel is a law enforcement. Basically, I stated that he was a current law enforcement, and he corrected me. He was like, so I cut that part out. That's literally the only thing that was cut out of the interview. I just wanted to do it for full transparency. It's longer than it should be. It's an area of thing that I need to improve on. I'm just self-critiquing. So there's that.
So remember how I brought up the special immigrant visas coming out of Afghanistan underneath Biden and how they were under review and the 2 ISIS guys and all of that stuff?
Yeah.
And then I could swear earlier in the stream I said I would not be surprised if he came over during that time frame. It's being put out on media right now that he was one of those that came over to the United States in 2021.
And SIV during that period. Yeah, I mean, it's no shock. Look, I think there's probably so many different, the flood of immigration that we had. And by the way, not just from Latin America, when you have Africans and you have people of Arab descent coming through the southern border the way that we did during that time period, we have no idea. We are not a sovereign nation at this point. We don't have a clue of what's actually in this country right now. Gordon Beaton says the left has turned the First Amendment to their own weapon, and terrorist attack is a direct result of the Biden administration thirst for power at any cost. Sadly, good men are paying the price. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this was a discussion that I had with Brian. And Brian, look, Brian has been beat up. Him and his men have been beat up and demonized in ways that, on a global scale, folks, on a global scale, that you can't imagine. And he definitely was like, basically he wants to hold X accountable. He wants to hold YouTube, Facebook, all those things. And he was talking about that. And I pushed back. I'm like, look, I'm a First Amendment absolutist. what we do need to do is we need to self-police. At one point in time in this country, if someone was to levy such serious accusations against someone with no evidence, there would be the majority, the vast majority, be like, dude, that is immoral. That's wrong. You don't do that. Let's wait for the investigation. If if you have some sort of evidence, let's talk about it.
See it.
We have to self-police in the same way that look, I'm a Second Amendment absolutist. I don't think there should be any sort of government regulation on firearms. That's how I feel about it. That being said, do I think you should be forced to go get training? Absolutely not. Do I think that as a responsible gun owner, you should go get training? Absolutely. So like, we got to be able to self-police some of these things. And that's how our founders imagined it and just expected us to use this, like our podcast.
We did for a very long time. We did for a very long time.
100%. We were just good, responsible Americans. Our podcast is called Dangerous Liberty. And one of the openings I used to always use is the fact that, hey, the only thing more dangerous than liberty is the lack thereof. So liberty is important, but we also need to understand that it's not without its risks. And there's going to be people out there that take advantage of it, but we got to self-police better than we are, especially in the age of AI. Can you please turn your mic up? I'm at full volume and I can't hear you well.
That was for me because normally I'm pushing through Streamlabs, not StreamYard, and I have it's fine. I took care of it on my end. Just cranked it up on my transfer board.
Fix yourself, Matt. Jesus.
Every time.
Note for Brian H. Please stay strong. I trust you with my life in your professional hands without a moment's hesitation. Yeah, look, there's something in and I'll let Matt weigh on this too. The expectations of a close protective detail that people are expecting out of these guys is insanity. It's built out of pure ignorance. They are good for about a 30-yard bubble around Charlie Kirk. That's what they can control. They had over 3,000 people in front of them. Probably 15% of them were armed or thereabouts. I mean, it's a concealed carry. It's constitutional carry there. And on top of that, they have permits and they are allowed to carry there on campus. So you got 3,000 to 4,000 people, whatever it is, 3,000 people there in front of you. That is the primary threat. And that's what they have to focus on. When we're talking about expecting them to do counter sniper operations, be able to look at buildings, yeah, they're going to look over there. But I don't think that, number one, Tyler Robinson's, he didn't have much of a signature getting into place, and he was only there for a brief moment. Yep. And also, the responsibility, just because a security detail goes into a facility, does not mean that that facility is no longer responsible for their own physical security. That is their rooftop. They're supposed to deny access to their rooftop. If they want to deny access, in the same light that if we had somebody go up there, climb over the top because they just wanted to see Charlie and they fell off the effing roof, they wouldn't be able to sue TPUSA.
The security team. That's right.
They would have to sue UVU because they are liable for that. So here's another thing too. Everybody talks about the drones. Folks, drones are not some sort of security panacea. For that area, you'd have to have 5 or 6 drones. It's like a 150-acre area that you'd have to be monitoring full time. And if I see a drone in the air, they can't be looking all at once. All he had to do was kick a door open and get to a room with a window, and now you've completely neutralized drones. Is it still the security, the close protection details responsibility to mitigate that threat? You know, can they mitigate a threat of somebody throwing a hand grenade or explosion device? Like, you're expecting presidential level protection. And I've heard people say, well, these guys were getting millions of dollars a year. Okay, I don't know what the number is, but what I can tell you is when the president goes to an event like that, it's a couple of million for that one event because they have so many different.
It doesn't even start the day of. Have like, yeah. So like when the president's doing things like that, I mean, they have like advon teams that will go out, survey the area, lock things down ahead of time, coordinate with local law enforcement agencies, make sure, and they come with a whole different set of assets versus what TPUSA has. And then I would also bring up, and I'd say, did they have a counter sniper team attached to their security detail? No, right? They didn't. And what firearms were they carrying? So let's say they did spot the guy. moving into position with that amount of time. They didn't even have the proper weapon systems in order to actually accurately engage him, nor would they have been able to actually pick out that specific threat with all of those different people there, right? From that distance, from the time it took him to move on that roof, crawl, get into position, and actually set up and shoot, they wouldn't have had the time to properly react. And they can't just grab a guy and throw Charlie on the ground every time somebody runs up on a roof. You're looking for a clear, identifiable threat. You can dispatch, you can send like law enforcement, you can send a different member of the security team up there, but you can't just shoot everybody because they move into an advantageous position because you can't identify a firearm with your naked eye from that distance, nor are they carrying binos on them. There's a million things that I can point into for why these people just really need to stay in their lane when it comes down to this. But at the end of the day, there's only so much that they can take care of. Yeah. We have had presidents get shot. We have had presidents get assassinated, right? Like this stuff happens all of the time. So even with the Secret Service details that are attached, and especially today with all of the technology that goes into it, they still fail. There's human error that goes into it. But more so, you have to understand that in this world, bad things happen to good people. And sometimes the most simplest answer is that. Bad things happen to good people, and there's evil people in this world. And there's...
Yeah. And they had 13 guys on the ground. That's what they had.
Yeah.
And they had 3,000 people. That means they have one guy to every 230 people on the ground. So that's one guy to every 230. And folks, like, it's not even, number one, there was really no precedent outside of Martin Luther King where we have a civilian. It's like the greatest threat is moving to the event, at the event, within that 10 to 15 yards, threat distance. Go ahead.
Here's the other thing. If I want to kill you, I don't have to be a better shot than you.
Yep.
I don't have to have more training than you. I don't have to be better trained. I don't have to have more experience. The only thing I have to be capable of doing is outthinking you.
Yeah.
And this is one of those situations where it was clearly thought out. It was clearly done, with intent. So you can lay everything that you want on those guys, but it is just a fact. You can take one of the most well-trained, well-experienced, well-equipped, well-armed people in the world and put them up against an absolute nobody. And as long as that nobody has thought outside the box, they can outthink him. They can kill him. It's just a fact, whether you like it or not.
And there's so many different security threats that weren't mitigated. He just picked one of them. Like, there would have been nothing to stop somebody waiting for them to leave or arrive and just walk out in front of the vehicle. It would have to stop. He wasn't in an up-armored vehicle, and then shoot up the vehicle. Like, a vehicle ambush is 10 times more likely, but we didn't see TPUSA rolling Charlie around in an up-armored vehicle. And for good reason. I
bring the same thing up with our schools, man. People are like, why don't we have our schools on lockdown? Why don't we have armed security officers? Why don't we have prior military? Why don't we have all this other crap? Cool, man. Put 5 armed vets in every single school, and I promise you, I can come up with a way to kill every single kid in that school. I promise you. And it's going to be done outside. And then what are you going to do? You're going to stop your kids from going to recess? You're going to stop your kids from being dropped off in bus lines? You're going to line the whole place with like steel plates? No, because I'm going to find another way to do it. Or maybe I'll just hit the school bus. Or maybe, I can keep going.
Yeah.
Like people are demanding the most ridiculous stuff in this world. And again, instead of looking at the societal problem that's causing it, the actual root cause, the root problem, we've got people going off on the French. We've got people going off on Israel. We've got people blaming each other here in the United States. We've got all this other crap. But what if all of that energy was actually dumped into the actual root cause, which was, even if what they're stating is true and he was a patsy, what is the issue which allowed that patsy to be exploited, and why aren't we addressing that in our country? Yeah. Why?
I also don't understand the weird tendency to defend Tyler. Like, it's almost strange. Like, not only did they say he he didn't do it, but then to explain away his limping when he has the gun down his leg. They actually said he was handicapped. Like, oh, he's always been handicapped. Like, who the F made that up? Like, because you are, again, I think that was outside influences for whatever motivations, sprinkling in more things that create more doubt, that give more momentum to these false narratives. Like, that's the real enemy here, folks, is false narratives. Doesn't matter if it comes from the government. Let's call it out. Hey, that's a false narrative coming from the government. COVID was a false narrative. Lockdowns were a false narrative. January 6th, a lot of false narratives going on there. A lot of abuse of power with some of those things. There's 100 more that we could go down the list. You know what? The biggest information op and the biggest false narrative that I think that we have been victimized with in this country is the 2020 election. I think there was massive voter fraud, and I think that has been suppressed, that has been covered up. They made it to where it was impossible to validate any, voter security whatsoever. It was a easy crime to pull off. It was almost an impossible crime to prove. And then on top of that, everybody within the entire system, the media and everybody else, tried to cover that up and try to dispute it and try to throw out all kinds of disinformation to make people believe that it didn't happen. And I think the evidence is overwhelming that it did.
Well, how shocking is it that more people are talking about like conspiracy theories with Charlie Kirk versus the White House coming out saying that the former president of the United States of America, in conjunction with the former Secretary of State, orchestrated an entire plot against their political enemy. You know what I mean? Like, how about you focus on that? Yeah. You know, like that seems like a pretty big thing for you to try to disprove. I haven't seen anybody try to disprove it yet. Nobody.
No, and they're not going to. This is pretty funny. Good on you, Richie. If anything happens to me, then call Candace Owens and she will find out what Israel did to me. Why are we going with the conspiracies when we know it was the radical left liberals, TDS, Antifa, and our mental illness? So I think without a doubt, a huge push on this. Again, as soon as that happened, he was a right winger, right? That was the first piece of misinformation that came out immediately. Like that was before we knew anything. That was within 30 minutes of this taking place. That was the first piece of disinformation that was put out. So, the left is trying to deny responsibility and take responsibility for their rhetoric over the other years. We talked about the monetary gain. If we follow the money, right, to motive. One of the biggest things that Charlie was in the middle of was talking about the fact that it's insane that we're pushing all of this transgender nonsense, right? Not only was pushing against that in the fact that there are the mentally ill among us that are dictating policy here in the United States and are exposing our kids to real dangers. The other part of that is why are so many people jumping on board with that? Because it's $1 billion industry between sex changes, hormones, all of the things that go along with that. And on top of that, it also furthers the left ideology. All of that's wrapped up into that. And like, you want to follow the money, you can also follow the money on that side. Heaven has no rage like love to hatred turn. Is Candace Owens a woman scorned covering her tracks? I have personally experienced projection. Could she be projecting? It would be pure speculation on my part. I will say this, because I do have evidence of it. I'm going to say this. This is speculative, but we have evidence of it. Have you seen some of the interviews that she's done with Charlie? Have you also seen how she has said multiple times that she was one of the founders or the masons of TPUSA? She worked for TPUSA 19 months. All right, it's existed since 2012. She has also said that she helped build TPUSA. She has made this whole grief thing all about her. But the way that she acted around Charlie before she was married and he was married was super weird. I'll just say like that. And
hey, man, S. Brown's just asking questions, He's just asking questions.
Just asking questions. That's true. This was a test. Now they know our response time. I agree with that. Get to If I Speak the Truth memberships.
Thank you, brother.
Awesome. Candace is the low form of intellect. Has to get so. I figure Lee Harvey Oswald would be the next person she claimed. It's possible. I like that. Did you see the one where she was like, I didn't realize that maroon, all these people with maroon in the audience, that is an elite airborne unit.
Oh God.
And just pulling stuff out of the air and then accusing people.
Which, by the way, the unit she named isn't an airborne unit, it's a mech unit. Just want to throw that out there.
It makes no the sole reason there was no exit wound when TPUSA had to sell you the miracle bullet BS and you ate it up. First of all, Day one, I said there was no exit wound. When everybody
Facts.
was saying that there was an exit wound, I said there was no exit wound. I'm the one that told Candace, me and other people, by the way, that there was no exit wound. When all these people that she was promoting, by the way, that was saying that this was an exit wound, she was pushing Zeb Boykin. Zeb Boykin said he was shot from the rear. A bunch of other people, like she was pushing all of those people.
I thought day one he got shot from the rear, and then I had to go back and rewatch video, and then I corrected it.
It's a look. Day one, I said he was wearing body armor. Look, it looks like number one, we're dealing with a high-speed energetic event, and it's hard to see what's going on with a 30 frame per second. It looks like he is hitting the chest. It looks like we have some sort of ricochet goes up. Day two, new photos came out. And by the way, I made sure to tell people, look, I am speculating. I could be wrong. Very first video, I said that. That's important to delineate when you're speculating. We don't turn speculation into fact. Day two, we had some other pictures come out, and I said, look, I'm probably wrong on this. Literally day two after I released that video. And there was some other things that went on there that I thought there was still a possibility because it did explain some things. That being said, I let you people know my entire thought process. And many of you were like, Gary, no, I think you were right. Don't let go of this. And then when I finally got confirmation from Brian Harpole, by the way, I was talking to him a couple weeks ago via text, and he sent me, I was like, hey, Brian, was Charlie wearing any sort of ballistic protection? There's extremely low profile custom ballistic protection that is extremely hard to see.
Yeah.
And he said, no, he was not. We tried to get him to wear. And the moment I had that, folks, the next live stream on Twitter, I made that clear. And that's if you are a person of integrity and you are a good faith actor, that's what you do. You correct the record, even with speculation. Candace is mowed through all of these victims that she has cast aspersions on, is moved from one to the next to the next to the next. Never once has she gone back and said, hey, you know what? I thought that the security team or this person or this person. Now I believe, and I was wrong. I want to clear it up the record. Now I believe French Mossad Foreign Legion agents with one Israeli in an Egyptian plane flown by Brigitte Macron, who's actually a dude, is actually who killed him. And by the way, she ordered that hit because Candace, being the world-renowned detective that she is, was getting too close to the truth about Brigitte Macron, so she killed Charlie to distract the world-renowned detective off the case. It's crazy.
I'm gonna ask ChatGPT just out of curiosity because she spits so much crap that it's hard to keep up with while you're going over this next one. Yeah. I'm gonna ask ChatGPT, give me a chronological timeline of all of the claims that Candace Owen made about who killed Charlie Kirk.
That is great. That's a great,
that's a
great query, as they would say. Appreciate all you do, Matt, and I do too. I just want you to know I appreciate all you do as well. Those newscasters, Tucker, Candace, and so forth, are paid for by the Russian and Chinese PSYOP campaign led by the globalization effort. Look, I will push back a little bit on this. I don't like this is kind of what this ends up being, and I think we need to be careful about this and make sure that we frame discussions correctly. Like, it's stupid to say, Matt, you're saying what you're saying, not because you believe it and because of your background, the information, your education, your experiences, but because you're paid by Israel. That is a non sequitur. Like, there's nothing substantive about it. So I would say our side, be careful of doing the same thing. Like, attack the merits or challenge the merits of the argument with substance. And that's how we stay true to ourselves. And I think that's how we win the fight anyhow. People, it's the same thing as when, a liberal calls you a racist or sexist or a Nazi or whatever else. It's meant to undermine you without actually addressing your argument.
Yeah, unless they are getting paid by people like RT, right?
Sure.
Like, that's different.
Yeah, and if we have proof of that, I think that we need to get that out there and make
exactly.
No, yeah. I mean, is there any evidence that Tucker is being paid by RT?
No,
I don't.
No, I mean, he's a little bit when it goes towards foreign influence with Qatar, but again, not proven as far as flow of money goes. So,
I don't think. Look, I just personally don't think, and I could be wrong. This again, speculation, right? I don't think that Tucker says the things that he says. I don't even think he says it for influence or clicks or views or whatever else. I think Tucker kind of goes off on these weird things sometimes. Candace, I've already told you what I think her motivation is. I don't know what their motivation is. I would love to ask him.
I look at Tucker and I say, if he really is as smart as he portrays himself to be, then he should do the due diligence to know that a lot of the things he puts out, he gets wrong. Or that the people he is bringing on his show are extremely biased and extremely leaning in one direction, that they're not truthful, honest people. These are the issues that I have with guys like Tucker. If you really are that smart, then instead of going one step and asking the question why, get that answer and present that answer.
Yeah. I agree. And like, help us understand how you came to your conclusions. Because I will say, Tucker just went from, I don't know, it's like out of the blue, we went hard anti-Israel. And I don't really understand it, to be honest with you. I would love to see that articulated. As a fag, former action guy, it makes me feel better that we have two dudes that care about our country and educate the people that don't understand what is really going on. Well, thank you.
Thanks, man.
Remember back in 2009, they passed a law that U.S. troops could be held and tried by the Iraqi courts. I do remember that. It was a SOFA agreement. I was actually in Iraq at the time. We went from doing probably 3 hits a day, Matt. Once that SOFA agreement hit, there was a couple of things. Number one, we could be tried by an Iraqi court. And this is Obama that put this in place. The other thing that we had to do, instead of developing our own intelligence and developing our own targets, we actually had to go get a warrant from a judge to actually go execute direct action. And my team sergeant, we're like 8 months into this 10-month deployment. And he was like, guys, we're done. We're not going to get compromised. We'd already, a lot of shit had taken place during that. But anyways, long story short, he was like, dude, we're going to continue to develop intelligence. We're going to do what we can. We are not going to put ourselves, and I'm not going to put you guys at risk to where we go and give a warning order to a effing Iraqi judge before we go execute a direct action target on a HVT. Like, that's not happening. So it was.
Yeah, if you want to look in more to that, Carl Higbee from Newsmax, his SEAL platoon was actually one of the reasons that actually happened. And they were the first ones they tried to smack down with that.
Yeah. And then on top of that, besides the fact that you're putting your life on the line, you're also exposing yourself to a freaking banana republic of being prosecuted in Iraq. Like, no, that's
right.
Great live stream tonight. Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Sky God.
The Truth memberships.
Thank you, brother.
Great show, Gary. What's your thought on Venezuela? Cartel there has their claws in the DC swamp. That's the reason Trump is engaged, I believe. Look, we have a lot of confusing interests in South America. We always have, going back to Iran-Contra and really before that, not everything else. Look, I think there are, again, entities that benefit from drugs coming into this country. And the same thing, like the reason that we haven't been aggressive on drugs in America, like there is a strategic reason behind that. And I love what he's doing. Look, we have like 60,000 people dying every year. I think that may be a low number.
That's extremely low.
Yeah.
That might be a month. Yeah.
Yeah. Of, overdoses. So like, we need to don't talk to me about gun control until you're out there. If you really care about lives, until we get the opium epidemic under control here in the United States. I don't know if that was a good answer. That's kind of my thoughts on this. This was actually one of the topics I planned to spend more time on. I don't know that we're going to tonight. Matt, real quick, your thoughts on what we have these Dems basically committing sedition, in my opinion, telling troops not to obey constitutional orders.
Yeah. So I got asked this question on a news interview the other day, and I asked the TV host, I said, or the anchor.
Well, now you're on prime time.
Right. I know. So I asked the guy, I said, well, what was the first thought you had when you saw that video? You have zero military experience. You've got nothing in your back. Like what was your first thought when you saw those lawmakers speaking on that video? The answer ends up, well, obviously they're telling the, people in the military to disobey illegal orders from Trump. That's what they're telling them. Okay, so if we take the layman standard and we apply it to that, or the reasonable person standard, and say the average American that watched that video thought that, then the members of our military absolutely knew exactly what they were talking about. Not a single time in history have we ever had to had a single politician come out and publicly state to members of our military and remind them that they needed to defy illegal orders. It's never happened before, and it's never happened for a reason. On top of that, statements before and after, I've identified, I think it was 19 total federal lawmakers between congressmen and senators that have named either the strikes inside of Iran illegal and or unconstitutional, thereby making them illegal, or the strikes on the cartels coming out of Venezuela illegal. And one of the men that was actually in that video, Representative Crow out of Colorado, had gone on the news and clearly stated sending the National Guard into Chicago he viewed as illegal because Trump described it as waging war on Chicago. Obviously, it's not waging war, right? Like that's hyperbolic. Like that's not, I mean, he's just speaking. He's not waging war, dropping bombs, frickin' any of that crap. So it's very clear to me exactly what they meant, exactly what they were trying to say. And I even went over this morning on my podcast. I know you said real quick, but sometimes just things aren't that quick.
Yeah.
There was,
Send it.
did you see the sign outside of Fort Bragg?
No, I didn't.
So there's a sign outside of Fort Bragg saying, did you sign up to go airborne just to like back up ICE or some crap like that? I'd have to go find it and pull it up, but it was words to that effect.
Sure.
And it directed him over to a website called I didn't sign up for this crap or something like that. And then it takes him over to a nonprofit organization that ties in with, I think it was the National Lawyers Guild, that also gets tied over to like George Soros and Act Blue and a couple of other places is all the allegations that go into it. But the interesting part is that 501c4 organization actually put out a fact sheet on their website just a couple days before that video came out with pretty much the exact same talking points. One of the men, senators that ended up not making that video, had said that he got sent a transcript for the video and that he just didn't have the time to do it beforehand. Otherwise, he'd have done it. So there's a transcript going around. Somebody developed that transcript, sent that transcript. That needs traced back. If it goes back to that 501c4, that is clearly, in my opinion, trying to recruit members of the military in order to actually defect and go against what are presumed to be lawful orders, which is the other thing that I think is the big telling part. It's not what they said in the video, it's also what they didn't say. The other thing military members get told is that, and that is like codified in law, is that you are to presume the orders as lawful.
Yeah.
Unless it is obviously illegal, you are to presume the orders to be lawful, right? You are not supposed to question. You're not because the military would end up breaking down. It's not what you personally believe. And every time you get briefed in the military on disobeying illegal orders, they give examples. Not a single example is given. So to me, we have the reasonable person standard that you can take and go and you can apply to that and say, what did the average American think when they were presented with that information, which was obviously, they're trying to go against the president. You have connections to a 501c4 with very similar script that ended up coming out a couple days before, posted up over on their website. That's posted billboards outside of Bragg. And then we have just common sense. Why would they need to state that in the first place? And I'm like you, I'm an absolutist when it comes down to a lot of different things, but not a single right that we have written in the Constitution. Not a single one of our constitutional rights is absolute. It's been confirmed by the Supreme Court. Not a single one. Yep. And so while it might be a free speech issue, people are quick to say all they're doing is citing the law. Well, you're like my child. Yeah. That's like my child stating all I was doing this when you know damn good and well what you were doing, and I would slap the crap out of you, spank your butt, and throw you in your room for that stuff, right? So they're acting like children, and this is a very serious situation that we're talking about here. Over on that website, it was actually talking about nuclear warfare and things of that nature. Right. And we are in a situation, whether Americans believe it or not, President Trump ended up sending 2 nuclear subs over off the coast of Russia right before he actually entered into that meeting with Putin over inside of Alaska. A lot of people don't like to talk about that. right? Like we are in that state today, whether people realize it or not. And if we have people that are questioning orders to launch nuclear weapons, if we have a commander that comes out, a lot of people are looking at this as, well, your baseline private wouldn't state that, who cares if a private defects? Who cares if a private disobeys, right? Like that person can get smacked. Well, what happens when it's a battalion commander, a brigade commander, a division commander that ends up coming out and saying, this is an illegal order.
Yeah.
We are not following it.
Yeah.
Because they have bought into all of the same misinformation and disinformation, and don't act like it's not happening. Because we have some very intelligent people that have fallen for a lot of lies inside of this country, and it's freaking appalling. Yeah. There's a major that I mean, dude, I can go on about this forever. It was wrong. In my opinion, it was wrong, and they knew it.
Well, yeah, not only is it wrong, but it's also a clear example of actual psychological warfare where they're using something like this and they are undermining the discipline and capabilities of the United States military.
That's right.
And like, it should be obvious to people. Again, we have our own politicians within our country conducting psychological operations on our own people, just like that. Trying to, like, if we could get that message out, if we're in the middle of a war against Russia, and we could portray that message onto Russian soldiers and reduce their morale, reduce their capabilities, and undermine their fighting force, like that would be like, that would be one of the most effective pieces of psychological warfare that we've ever seen. And yet we have our, number one, former military that they know they're lying, that they're full of shit, and our own politicians putting that out for political gain. And really, it's not even political gain. It's an ideological gain. And it's the fact that they see Donald Trump and his administration as an enemy, which is also crazy. I fear that after trial, Candace Owens will claim everyone is in on it, and chaos will continue to worsen. And I can't see her apologizing. She won't.
She'll never will.
You're dead on. Keyholing plausibly explains ballistics. It does. Look, it could have keyholed. The other thing, I meant to go through this the other night. What I thought was crazy. If you guys haven't seen, I talked about this book the other night. This is a book on ballistics, and I literally have a picture of a shot just above the collarbone where they were doing ballistic testing and looking at people that are shot. It's exactly, and he talks about how the skin is stretched, but it's basically almost in the exact same spot, a little lower in this example. I'm going to cover this another night, but it shows exactly what we see. So while we do have what I would think looks like a strange entry wound to some extent, this right here is exactly what they show, and it's not a round tumbling or anything else. Look, again,
there is a reference.
Go ahead.
No, it wasn't a fringe round. There's a reference from an OSS field manual from all the way back in the day, right? So OSS, that pretty much dates it, and it talked about a situation of OSS guy going to take out a German sentry and literally firing a 30-06 projectile into the soldiers, and it was the same thing. It did not go through. It impacted the neck. I couldn't believe it myself when I ended up finding it. It exists. If I still have it, I'll send it to you. I know I downloaded it and saved it and talked about it. But yeah, I mean, it's been documented in the past. Just nobody uses that dang round anymore. I think like me and my stepdad are the only two that really shoot it anymore, And some FUD that showed up to one of my long-range courses that had an AR-15, right?
Yeah.
No, AR-10 converted to 30-06 to chamber 30-06. AR-10 converted to chamber 30-06. Overgassed.
And again, it goes back to the fact that everything that we would need to know about that round to make any sort of logical prediction of what we think we would see, and then we can still get it wrong. We don't know what that is. It's like looking at a car and saying, you know what, I used to have a car like that. I know the top speed on that car is 80 miles an hour. When you don't have a clue what the engine is in it, you don't have a clue you don't know if the engine is broken. You don't know if it's some stupid, it could be 200 miles an hour. But again, people are taking their limited amount of experience and saying, my pappy's rifle would do this. It'd blow the head clean right off of your shoulders. And it's like, shut up. Like another great example of this is Thomas Crooks. Okay. He was shot with 300 Win Mag. It has about 1,000, depending on which round you're using, about 1,000 foot-pounds more worth of energy. Didn't blow his head off.
Yeah. You know why? Yeah, I try to explain this to people all of the freaking time. Just because it has potential kinetic energy,
Yes.
right? Like, or it's carrying that kinetic energy. That energy has to be transferred into the target, which means that bullet has to come to a complete and total stop within the target. That's why we had so many problems with 5.56 NATO. It's got a lot of kinetic energy, but it's also designed to penetrate. And so it's essentially an ice pick at close range, right? 5.56, 500 meters has the same kinetic energy as a 9 mil fired at point blank range. Like, wrap your head around that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. So it's the energy transferring into the intended target. That's what it takes.
100%. The only thing that bugs me more than the armchair commandos is the armchair detective. I agree.
That's right.
And then using ridiculous assumptions or using ridiculous logic or just incorrect information, and then using that to come to these ridiculous assumptions that you don't even have. And this is not like, I'm not trying to disparage anybody. There's definitely things that I don't know about that I make assumptions on all the time that I'm wrong about. Like, whether it's, I don't know, there's lots of stuff I don't know, mechanics or whatever else, right? Like, if I just said, and this is very analogous to what we hear a lot about, like, oil's oil. They're just trying to trick you. That's why I just use freaking olive oil in my F350 diesel. It's the same stuff.
No.
Like you can sit in a bubble and try to explain it to people like, hey, don't you think oil is oil? Yeah, oil is oil. Like, don't you think olive oil will work just as good in my truck? Yeah, probably be a lot cheaper too. I don't think olive oil is actually cheaper, but the point.
Well, let's look at it this way. When you teach long range shooting, do you teach ballistic facts or ballistic theory?
Ballistic theory.
Weird.
Yeah. 100%. Just like, when you're practicing medicine, right? You get into the med side of things, like people's anatomies are different. Their body chemistry is different. There's so many variables that we can't control, that we can't foresee, that we can't predict. It gets crazy. And everybody out there, including Candace, like, you guys know, this is where it begins. This is where it ends. There's nothing outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, if you're going to do ballistic testing, I'm only going to test what I know will prove the results that I want. You're not going to, there's 100 other options over here, and you're just like, nope, not like, again, you're not doing science. You're doing confirmation bias. I'm going to go ahead of her next claim and just say Lee Harvey Oswald did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that is my doppelganger, for those of you that don't know.
That's legit. Tucker Carlson, the CIA agent. Gary, nobody believes you. Nobody believes Tyler did it. Well, I think you are incorrect. That is, Matt, do you believe Tyler did it?
Yeah. And here's the other thing. Just because a ton of people believe in something doesn't make it true, my friend.
100%. The truth is not democracy. Here we go. I love this one. Only a professional can make that shot under that type of pressure. You're a moron. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Gary, what are you chewing? I just threw it away. Velo are the pouches I use. They make you smarter, I've heard. I don't trust my government. Hell, I don't trust anyone until they have shown they can be trusted. I agree. I mean, that's a great rule of thumb to go through life with. And
even then, I don't trust them.
And even then, they every time they come to me with a new piece of information, they're getting vetted. That information is getting vetted. I'm going to confirm or deny it, and we're going to move on.
There's one perfect person to walk this earth, and he wasn't a person.
Yep.
Facts.
Tell Mikey to show his call log. He can't show his call log. It's in the FBI's hand. He has a gag order. They have to preserve the evidence to make sure that Tyler has his constitutional rights preserved, so he has a
free and fair trial.
War on all fronts, boys. War on all fronts, which is my opinion why we can't isolate. Foreign adversaries will never stop. By the way, I think Tyler was influenced by the third left hand. I don't think we should isolate. I think it sounds like, and I don't even know what Matt's philosophy is on this, but I think we need to. Number one, I think we need to quit sending so much of American taxpayer dollars and meddling in foreign countries and all the different things that we do. We definitely need to stay out of wars that are unnecessary. Just like Matt said, look, even going back to the October 7th and everything that happened there, I told you guys, like, I'm pretty indifferent to Israel. Here's what I would have done differently, though. The moment that I hear that we have Americans being held hostage, I would have told Bibi Netanyahu, I'm going to be dropping off about 500 tanks and a whole bunch of people, and we're going to be on your border, whether you like it or not, or we're just going to pull funding or whatever else, and we're going to be there, and we're going to give everybody over there. All right, I know there's a bunch of different factions. I don't want to get into that argument, but the fact is, like, hey, if we don't have the Americans back in 12 hours, we're bulldozing everything. That's how I see it. Like, we don't leave Americans stranded in that situation. And if you got a problem with Israel and Palestine and Hamas and everybody else, that's your shit. You give us the Americans back, or you were going to have hell to pay.
And those people that were being held hostage, and we had an American citizen that actually got killed because of, the whole thing's just messed up. And for those that don't know, the president does have the legal authority to launch whatever the hell he needs to do in that situation in order to get Americans back. He doesn't have to get congressional approval. He can make it happen.
Yeah. Why did Candace go astray? What the hell happened to her? Did she just lose it? No, I don't think it was the assassination. I think she capitalized on the assassination. I think it has to do with relevance more than anything else. Look, I mean, she just made the #1 podcast in a certain category. That's my thoughts on it. What's yours, Matt?
She gets her methylene blue from what's his name, Alex Jones, and nicotine pouches from Tucker Carlson, and the combination made her go crazy. That's my theory. You know,
I took methylene blue this morning, and I got a mouthful of pouches, none of which came from Tucker.
Right. But the frogs are gay.
That's factual. Stop pushing Republican versus Democrats. We're not falling for that anymore. Well, that's an element of this, and you got to know your terrain. Matt, I sent you a DM on X of an update on the National Guard situation.
Thank you, Jay. Read it for you guys.
Thanks for not sending it to me. I got an inbox too, Jay Valerie. Rage brought the happy Thanksgiving to you both. Have either of you seen Nate's video basically backing up Candace's claim of Fridge Assassin Squad? If so, thoughts? I have. I'll just leave it there. Look, I'm not gonna get into it with people in the regiment. I'm just not gonna do it. Thank you for sticking to the Constitution, Gary. Thank you. Why did multiple global militaries, national security intelligence agencies, Interpol, etc., across the West not raise any concerns terrorists flowing unhinged through deliberately open borders? Well, I think there was elements that did.
It has been
obvious. Yeah. Take the rest of that.
It has been brought up. Like we know for a fact that down inside of Venezuela, China has a huge freaking road leading up through Mexico and into the United States of America. And we've got lots of Chinese that end up pouring across the border that way. We also know of Pakistanis, Afghans, Chechens, like all sorts of people that have been pouring across the border. Interpol has brought this up. Last week, there was a notice that they had actually put out about a terrorist attack that was taking place over across the EU at multiple different locations where they had weapons and explosives and everything. So this is stuff that's being tracked. I just don't think it's stuff that you actually hear a lot about. And I think it's stuff that our government doesn't like to talk about. And I think that politicians and everybody else wants to keep your attention diverted. And let's just face the facts. After 20 years, global war on terror and everything that we've been doing, people are war tired inside of the United States. And I don't think they want to hear it. And the sad truth is the only way you can stop somebody that wants to kill you and they're willing to give their life to do it is to kill them back before they can kill you. And Americans don't want to hear that. And I think it's about time that we start having that conversation in this country.
It also helps if you, I don't know, put some roadblocks in where you deny entry. But look, the other element of this that is part of the way that our republic was formed is that we do have an executive branch that is allowed to appoint all these, heads of these different departments. And then when you have good people in there working that are just trying to do their jobs and they're sending up these reports, those political appointees get to suppress that. And look, that's part of what happens. We see the results of certain policies, whether it's Republican, Democrat, or anything in between. and then the American people get to choose down the road. Because if we get another Democrat in office, and especially if we get to where we have a majority in the House and the Senate, folks, it's going to go back to that times 10. Like, they are importing voters, and they believe that if they import enough, they don't care about the American safety, that they are going to be in power for a really long time. And I think they're right. I think it's
That's my theory.
Yeah, it's a completely logical conclusion. Is there any public response from UVU? No, not that I'm aware of. They put out some information. What I can tell you is, look, there's elements to that. Number one, as an institution, they're just not going to respond. Number two, we don't know what legal action is being taken against them. Number three, or what legal action is going to be taken against them. Number three, I'm sure they are part of that gag order, at least elements of there. And they are going to be, there's certain people that are going to be part of the trial and ultimately eyewitnesses. I don't think there's no indication to me that where, Utah or the FBI or anything else. And right now, the entire investigation is Utah's hand. The FBI has relinquished authority over that and jurisdiction. I don't think that they are going to be held in criminal. They're not going to have any charges or anything like that. Like, civil thing is another issue altogether that could be very, very real. People do not give the security detail enough credit when private security have to work within the restrictions of the local, state, and federal, and they have to work with it. And on top of that, they don't have veto authority. I keep seeing this down in the comments. Like, if they saw this and this and this, they just tell Charlie, we're not doing this event. It's not how private security. Matter of fact, that's not how Secret Service. And again, I used to I was an instructor and did some other things with Diplomatic Security, Department of State. I have seen where you have security details trying to tell an ambassador or other dignitaries, look, this is what we got to do, sir. And they're like, shut the F up. This is how we're going to do it. And, a great example of this is Ambassador Stevens. Like, his security detail was trying to tell him there in Libya of what needed to be done. And I've seen the classified ARB of that. Look, security is a throwaway. Like, they hired help, and especially on the corporate side, like hired security. The other element of this too is, like, Brian was not in charge of anything. Brian was in charge. Dan was actually in charge of. He was the security manager. All of that information came up and down from TPUS down to Dan and then down to Brian, and he just executed. The coordinations on some of those things were mainly done through Dan. And I'm not even saying it's his fault. Again, you have to understand the capabilities of a close protection detail. And if you expect anything out of that, outside of those capabilities, you are foolish and you are ignorant and you just don't understand how it works, no matter how much you wish you thought or you think you do or whatever else. I don't know what to tell you. I have not watched the news in a very long time due to trust. I do, however, watch this podcast because I feel like I'm at least getting the truth from someone I trust. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Matt, for being here.
Thank you.
Lucas Ray's works. I love the victims who sit behind their computers and second guess these events after the fact. Let's see how they react in real life situation. Thanks for all your content, Gary and Matt. I agree. Do you think George Zinn acted normally? I think that should be an obvious question. No, he didn't act normally, and I don't have a good explanation about George Zinn. He may be part of something. What we see is what we know. I mean, do you have anything to add to that, Matt?
Yeah, people knew about it beforehand.
Yeah, there you go. I want to get with you. Send me some information that you have on that particular aspect. I'd like to explore that a little bit.
Yeah.
The spouse is the number one suspect in a murder case. I like no, like that is not even a rule of thumb, and given the circumstances, it's idiotic. Like, she wasn't there, she didn't have Charlie killed.
Stop watching TV.
Yeah, like, just stop. Candace was flirting with Charlie in my humble all the time. Like, it's almost schoolgirl cringe level stuff when you watch some of the interviews where she's talking with Charlie. I think Candace was sleeping with Charlie. Again, no evidence. You just keep throwing stuff out. There's no evidence of that. I actually don't think that's the case, actually. Hey, chat,
Here.
like button. Thanks, CJ.
I want to send this to you. I just sent it over to you DM on X. So you can take it and you can put it up on the screen. That is the guy from beforehand that actually made the post and everything about it. I should have another one also that references it as well. So
I just tried to go to messages and it's like trying to reset or some weird thing going on here. There we go. Let me throw this up on the screen. I don't think I've seen this. Anyways, let me.
So that one with the dog on it, that is the original X post before it ended up getting covered up.
All right. Hey, CJ, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate you guys. For people that don't know, CJ Correnti is the guy that processed all the 3D imagery and built the 3D model of the stuff that wasn't there when we did the 3D scan, the tent. Man, they put hundreds and hundreds of hours, tens of thousands of dollars into that out of his own time and pocket and, paying his guys to do so. Can't thank you enough, CJ. I think you're a great American, my friend. Let me pull that down and then we will get to this. All right. I actually want to big screen this so I can see what we're seeing here.
Yeah, click on that dog's face for me. There you go. So that's the original post that went up. You can see it was posted on September 9th, and it just says, let's just say something big will happen tomorrow. And then you can see on September 10th, people started posting, the best time to delete this was before you hit post. The second best time is now. You are an abomination, and so on and so forth, right? People are tagging the FBI and everything in it. Originally saw a screenshot of that immediately after Charlie was done. Scroll to the right, please. Click the right arrow. He then ended up immediately deleting the post, and it went away. And then he put his account on private and ended up changing his profile picture. Well, everybody knows when you have a digital footprint, it goes over. So I was able to take and actually search the exact terminology that was in there. And even though he deleted the post, there's still a digital footprint. So those are Google shots showing that post is in fact true. That post did get put up the day before, and that actually happened. And then that's the profile in which it got put up on. And again, deleted.
That's nuts. That's the first time I've seen this.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly that got covered up, right? People were aware of it beforehand.
That is nuts. Let's see this one real quick. We already did that one. Never thought body armor, never believed shot from the rear. Always believed the kid did it. Gary for president. This is crazy. What has happened to the human thought process? P.S. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. What do you think about Sean Ryan having Tucker on and pandering to that side? Look, Sean Ryan's job, and this is another thing too, when you're interviewing somebody, and again, I'm not some professional interviewer or anything else. Your job is to have a discussion with them and, let people see inside this person's head. Your job is not to, like, a lot of people expected me to interrogate Brian. Like, I'm not going to do that. That's not what that was about. Mm-hmm. We definitely hit as many questions as I could come up with. Again, I watched that interview, and I know a lot of people are like, hey, great interview. Blah, blah. Like, I see a lot of, look, I'm a very self-critical person to begin with. Nobody has to beat up on me. And no one's going to beat up on me more than me. There's a lot of stuff I could have done better. In retrospect, I probably should have cut some things out. And again, I'm meandering. But the point here is, like, it's not an interrogation process. And Sean Ryan is, I don't care who you have on, let people see kind of inside their head, and then you determine what their motives are or whatever else, and just hear what they have to say. You got anything to add to that, Matt?
Nope, I agree.
Matt Gen X Transplant Bros, love your show. I'm a member on my personal account, but my bro, and love your show. Keep it up, man.
Nice. Thanks, brother.
Get the one Speak the Truth membership.
Yeah, thank you.
Gary, they won't even show the autopsy. You're right. They don't show the autopsy because it's part of the evidence.
It's evidence for the trial that hasn't taken place yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just, all right. This is where I'm going with this. Sorry I haven't been around lately, so you may be tired of this question. What is your best guess for no exit wound with no vest? Well, I think Matt and I have kind of hit that pretty hard. There's a lot of good reasons. I just posted, like, I don't know the validity of this, but somebody sent it to me, and I actually had him send me an additional follow-up video. Guy sent me a picture of a deer that he killed where the 30-06 round is actually lodged in the deer's heart. Things are crazy with ballistics. You're also dealing with things, number one, a super high-speed interjected event, and you're dealing with things at a microscopic level between things that are happening to the metal, things that are happening to the blood, the flesh, everything else that's going on, and we don't know what the round was. Like that's like
you can't repeat the same shot twice.
Yeah.
Even if we had all of it, if
100%.
we had all of the information, if we had the same everything, we couldn't repeat any same shot twice. Now you can come really close. You could do all sorts of different things, but all of that is a lot of theory. That's why we brought it up earlier. Are you teaching ballistic facts or ballistic theory?
Yeah.
That goes into it, and it's theory. I mean, I've seen some wild stuff happen when bullets strike flesh. Some crazy stuff. So,
yeah, I mean, there's just so much that we don't know that there's no way to even. And again, anyone that's saying definitely this or definitely that, like you don't need to even listen to them because they don't know what they're talking about. Doesn't Charlie's security have a gag order also? No, they do not. All right. So I talked to Brian about this. He currently is not under a gag order. I don't think he's even actually been subpoenaed. I don't know if that is changed, but no, he's not under a gag order. There was look, the gag order that was put out, it was very clear within that gag order, the left and right limits. Like, I remember the day after I saw Candace, she's like, I'm not going to follow this gag order. Mm-hmm. You're not in the gag order there, Victory, Tina. Like, I know you're going, like, you're against the system. I got it, but it doesn't even include you, you narcissistic weirdo. So anyways, yeah, I generally agree with this, and I don't think it's for ad revenue personally, but again, I'm speculating. I can't look into her soul and see what's going on. Look, we're gonna hit like 5 more questions, and then Matt has a bedtime. I got a bedtime. And we'll get you guys out of here, but we really appreciate you guys tuning in. If they're not telling the truth, or the NWO elites roam pre-planned one world building, and they're just not telling the truth of the end game. All right. If you get into the fallacy of this, if this, then that every single time, you're going to come up short. Like, it's just because if you believe, and I do, I think there was a conspiracy around the JFK assassination, probably a conspiracy around Martin Luther King assassination. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean that every assassination is a conspiracy. It doesn't mean it's not. But what I'm saying is like, I don't consider those, as I'm going through this entire case, and I've been doing it nonstop for 2.5 months now. Like, I'm looking for evidence of what is true and what is not. And like, it's really hard to overcome all the evidence in just these charging documents. And then you can look into this, and then you can see, like, it's very clear all the evidence that are not listed in this charging document. Well, to some extent, like they actually talk about how they have footage of him getting into place and actually moving to the edge, getting down on his knees, low crawling to the actual final firing position. Like, where do you think that came from? That came from that camera. I was there on the UVU roof. I can tell you for certain that camera had a clear view of him moving into position. You don't have that information. We don't have that information because they can't release it. That's how our justice system works, and thank God it does. I know it doesn't placate our curiosity, but none of that video that was put out with him was there to convince you that he was the one that's guilty. That video, the small amount of video that was put out, was just enough that somebody decided, like, we need to put just enough because we don't have this person yet. And somebody will recognize him from this small amount of video. And it worked. His mother recognized him. His father recognized him. They both turned him in. They both said in these charging documents that he what did he say exactly? Basically admitted to guilt. He implied that he admitted to doing this. Here's my problem, and that to me is like the strongest point of this. Matt, do you have kids?
Mm-hmm.
So if my kid, let's say the narrative, oh, they turned him in because the police were looking for him. They didn't think he did it. Now, even if I'm in protective custody and I see these charging documents come out and say that I turned them in, that I recognized him, and that my son admitted to guilt in this, and I think the government is lying and railroading my son to a death penalty. I'm telling you right now, there would be nothing that could stop me from getting the word out and saying this is bullshit, and I would not allow that to happen to my son. The fact that we've heard nothing from the parents, I'm not saying it's proof that this is all true, but it's definitely a significant portion that for me, that part of it is a little bit of evidence for me that that's not, everything here right now is checking out.
Yeah, my kid would already be busted out of jail.
Yeah. Like something happened. It was weird. We had a freaking explosive breach on.
I don't know how it happened, man.
I don't know what happened. Prove Tucker is a CIA agent. Did he say outlandish lies and outlandish truth at the same time? I don't know if that's a.
If I'm not giving you the entire story, is it the truth?
Yeah.
If I'm giving you partial facts, is it truth? Like Candace Owens' video, she made a factual statement when she said that he said car. But she also failed to mention that he said vehicle multiple times after that. I consider that a lie.
Yeah, no, that was clear deception. And that one piece completely undermined millions of people's view on the validity, which to me is silly to begin with, just because like that whole logic doesn't even make sense to me. But it did to a lot of people, and she convinced a lot of people by omitting 15 seconds later when he says vehicle. And then I'm still like weirded out about the fact that she wasn't like taxi the car over. Like that's the weird thing. There's killing common and there's getting away with it very rare. Technically, he did get away with it, but he apparently had a big mouth. So he didn't just have a big mouth. There was just so much amount of evidence that he left out. I don't think that Tyler thought he was going to get out of there. I think he thought this was a one-way trip. I don't know that. It seems to me that there's a certain level of planning getting to that point, and it looks like to me there's a lack of planning on the exfil. And I think like, wow, I got away with this thing. I think he went there to die or knew that was a huge possibility of it.
Exit strategy, United States. It's a problem.
Yep. It is a real problem. All right, folks. I think we're going to leave it right there. Listen, folks, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for participating. I'm glad we got as many. If I missed anybody, if I missed any super chats, I apologize. It was not intentional. I promise you. Matt, thank you for coming on, man. I really do.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Great discussion. I thought it was good. And folks out there, I want you guys to have a wonderful Thanksgiving tomorrow. God bless you and your families. And yeah, we'll be back on, I don't know. We may do something this weekend. We'll see. Worst case scenario, we'll be back on Wednesday. Matt, when's your next show?
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning. Jeez, oh, Pete is freaking outworking me. Well, listen, folks, we really appreciate
That's
you.
what I do, baby.
Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you.